Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest Xbox news for the week of May 9th, 2024, including Xbox dropped a bombshell announcement this week that they are closing 4 studios, including the team behind the beloved and critically acclaimed Hi-Fi Rush. Microsoft is reportedly debating on whether or not to include Call of Duty in Game Pass going forward. In addition to all that, the Perfect Dark reboot from the new studio The Initiative, formed in 2018, is reportedly in rough shape as development hits roughly its 6-year mark. All of this and more. On this day in Xbox history, in the year 2006, 18 years ago, Uno was released for the Xbox 360. I gotta say, man, we're gonna cut straight to the chase this week because it is just such a... Even in a world where Xbox is constantly outdoing themselves by just dropping like horrible news unexpectedly out of nowhere, changing the game, pissing everyone off, confusing the fuck out of people, even in a world where that is so prevalent, Xbox has found a way to once again outdo themselves this week. And so we're going to just kind of breeze through the opening of the podcast and get straight to the meat and potatoes because, I mean, how do you not? But honestly, I do have to first note how I don't know, quaint it is that, you know, when I wrote this podcast, like the notes for this podcast, about a day before all this shit hit the fan, we started getting all the news we've been getting this week. I remember going to Moby Games to find out what Xbox games came out this week, you know, throughout history. And I came across Uno for Xbox 360. And it's just so funny because Uno is like, strangely enough, despite being this weird licensed family card game, little Xbox Live Arcade download $20 thing, it's just so indicative of like how far we've come and like how the times have changed, because I actually have really fond memories of Uno on the Xbox 360. I remember this is one of those little Xbox Live Arcade games that like you wouldn't think much of. Like if today you found out like, oh, there's a new Uno app for iPhone, you wouldn't fucking give a shit, because what else is new? There's always some nonsensical like little light mobile type game out there to play. But it was fun, it was unique, it was there at the beginning of Xbox Live when everyone didn't have their fucking faces glued to their phones all day, and the idea of playing something like Uno on your video game console in the living room was kind of novel and fun. And I actually have really fond memories of like going over to my friend's house and he had Uno on his Xbox, and people would make very inappropriate gamer tag pictures and profile pictures on Uno, and then everyone had mics or like the little fucking D-pads that plugged into your, you know, the little keyboards that plugged into your Xbox 360 controller, and people would shit talk, and it was wildly inappropriate but incredibly fun, and you'd stay up till 2 a.m. And I remember getting on the school bus and like friends would be like, yo, I was on Uno last night. It's just, there was something so quaint and charming and fun about it, and it was this very innocent time, but it was also kind of this, I don't know, there's just something about something as stupid and trivial as like playing Uno on your Xbox, where back in the day that used to be something that was fun and exciting, you know, at a time where it was new and novel to play video games online at home on whatever, on a video game console in your living room or whatever. And I don't know, it takes me back to like Halo 3, Gears of War, Xbox Live Arcade, like staying up till 2 a.m. with your buddies on Modern Warfare. Just, it has that kind of energy, and it's like, that right there is the reason why so many of us fell in love with Xbox. I'm not going to try to sit here and lie about, you know, my story with Xbox. I played the original Xbox. I had access to one growing up as a child. I definitely loved the first Halo and liked the Xbox a lot, but I'm not going to lie about it. Very much growing up in my life at that age, Nintendo was my life. Like the original Xbox was a welcome addition into my gaming rotation, but it was not the thing that made me fall in love with the Xbox brand. That was the 360 that did that to me. And being in those like seminal middle school to high school years with the Xbox 360, I just have the absolute warmest, fondest memories growing up with that shit. And it's just so crazy to think about how strong those emotional moments are, even just playing fucking Uno with your buddies on Xbox Live. And then fast forwarding to all the shit today and how like no one just enjoys shit anymore, and everything's dictated by like the news cycle and social media. And you look up Xbox and you're not thinking about like, me and my buddies played Uno last night and we DM'd some guy and told him we were fucking his mom so he'd rage quit. We're thinking about like, oh, what the hell is Phil Spencer doing? They're really running this company in the ground. Goddamn, Activision's ruining Xbox. Layoffs, studio closures, cancellations. It's insane. It's like we've lost the plot so much with video games, like not just we as consumers, because in fact, I mean, the situation has kind of been thrust onto us as consumers. Really, I mean, like the industry and the way that news and entertainment is marketed and disseminated throughout the world, and how people consume and have a relationship with the entertainment they enjoy. It's changed so drastically, and it fucking sucks, man. I know this is such an old man yelling at the sky kind of thing to say, but it truly does suck. As someone who is only 29 years old, I consider myself so blessed and fortunate to have come up in that era where we absolutely had the advent of like the cell phone and the iPhone and the internet and MySpace and Facebook and all that stuff. But like I was born at just a time where I really did see the transition from things like Super Nintendo and arcade games to Xbox Live and HD gaming and all that. And I saw the transition from like really not having the internet to like kind of having the internet and one computer in your house to like everyone's got a fucking iPhone in their pocket, and getting to experience that gradient, that transition. I know that I was in that prime pocket of like, I know the old world and I know the current world, and I got to experience a little bit of what it was like before, and I got to experience that really special early internet history period, where like YouTube was fun and video games were fun. And I don't know, I think about like a kid who's my age now, or who is the age I was when I was playing Uno on the Xbox 360, and I'm like, goddamn, dude, like your relationship with gaming, if you're into gaming the way I was into gaming at your age, your relationship with gaming sucks compared to what I had, man. It's just fucking, you're just waiting for your next Fortnite skin and following like fucking, I don't know, God knows who on TikTok, waiting for information on the next COD update. And then Phil Spencer's out here telling interns to go home and pack it up. They're done here. And man, just go play Uno and tell some kid you're fucking his mom, because those were the good days. God bless you, Xbox 360. Linkin Park, Mountain Dew Voltage, Transformers. Are you fucking kidding me? You kids don't know how bad you have it. Anyway, so yeah, we're just gonna jump into it. Notable game releases. It doesn't fucking matter. We don't have to get into this. I will address a couple of mildly amusing stories, like the kind of warm-up stories, just because, in a strange way, some of this kind of touches on what we're getting on anyway, and it keeps in line with the theme of like the modern, I don't know how to put it, like the video game industry in modernity is ass, and everything about it kind of sucks. The games are still good, great developers with great imaginations and skill and talent and passion are still making wonderful games to experience and enjoy, but God, there's just so everything around it, the bureaucracy around it sucks so many donkey wieners that it's hard to appreciate sometimes. All right, starting us off, guys, let's talk about a little Activision news. So this is pre-Microsoft acquisition, but Unseen64 YouTube guy who does these videos about like canceled game projects and video game stories that, exposing like the stories of like games that never came to be or cancellations or whatever, put up this video this week about Vicarious Visions, the Activision, I guess former Activision studio that worked on like Tony Hawk games and things like that, that recently got folded into Blizzard. They got basically folded into, they got put on Call of Duty support work, and then they got folded into Blizzard to do, I don't know, support work on Diablo or whatever the hell. But yeah, he put out this video this week, and I just want to read kind of this VGC write-up of it, because it's a little interesting. It does tie in somewhat to what we're talking about today, where the article reads, Activision reportedly rejected a pitch for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4, preferring Vicarious Visions to work on Call of Duty as a support team instead. In a new video game by YouTuber Liam Robertson, it's claimed that following the huge success of the first remake, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 remake, what was that, 2021? That came out, a pitch for a second remake collection was created over at Vicarious Visions. Initially, the first remake was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 was planned to include 3 and 4 as well, but they say, quote, we settled on adding some handling features from later games to reflect the way people remembered the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. The improvements from 3 seem to bleed into people's memories from the first two, so that's really cool. They worked on kind of upping the quality of the first 2 games rather than just adding all the games in one package and not, fine-tuning them and massaging them. He says, eventually it came clear that we didn't have time for 1+2, for more than just 1 and 2, so the idea that we continue the release with a release of 3 and 4 in some fashion was on the table. A pitch for Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 was presented to Activision following the commercial and critical success of the first remake. However, it was declined by Activision. Activision reportedly favored the idea of Vicarious Visions assisting on Activision's main franchise, Call of Duty. Vicarious Visions also assisted on the development of the Diablo 2 remake. Tony Hawk claimed in 2002 that a second collection of remakes was planned until Vicarious Visions was absorbed into Activision entirely. Not only that, but the video goes on further, not so much to talk about Activision, but not so much to talk about Call of Duty and what should I say, Tony Hawk, but that Vicarious Visions was also working alongside Nintendo on a 3D Donkey Kong game. The title reportedly was codenamed Freedom, which was developed for the Nintendo Switch before eventually being scrapped altogether. Now, why is a Nintendo game relevant to an Xbox podcast? Well, because, of course, Vicarious Visions, part of Activision, is now part of the Xbox family. And again, this ties into a greater point here where the game was reportedly a 3D platformer focused on movement, wherein one of the key mechanics would be Donkey Kong grinding on vines. Donkey Kong Vine claims the project was greenlit following the inclusion of Nintendo characters from the Activision Skylander series in the game Superchargers, where listeners might remember that there was a Donkey Kong Bowser included figurine and playable characters in that version of Skylanders, which impressed Nintendo. However, as Robertson reports in his video, as reported, Nintendo partnered with Vicarious Visions to work on the project, and according to DK Vine, Shigeru Miyamoto was heavily involved providing feedback and suggestions for the mechanics of the game. The game made it to about 6 months of development before it was eventually scrapped. The project ultimately faltered because, again, Activision shifted focus away from a wide catalog of titles like Donkey Kong and Tony Hawk and instead focused on Call of Duty almost exclusively. So it sounds like some kind of Donkey Kong game for Nintendo Switch that may have had Tony Hawk style inspired mechanics, which could have been fucking awesome for Nintendo Switch. But Activision said, no, you work on Call of Duty now. The game was reportedly scrapped back in 2016, and here's where it gets interesting. So that was the last straw for the team as founders of Vicarious Visions reported. The founders left the studio in 2016 after all this happened and went on to work on a new studio, VLAN Studios, which would go on to develop Mario Kart Live Home Circuit for Nintendo Switch. Basically said, fuck this, we're out of here. So Vicarious Visions later, again, after the Tony Hawk thing, got absorbed into Activision and then worked on Blizzard support and things like that. But the important thing here is this is an example of, and it's hard for us as consumers to not think of this as like, dude, you're working on a Donkey Kong game. Of course, Activision would be thrilled to let one of their teams work on a Donkey Kong game for Nintendo. That's going to be so huge. That's such a well-known IP. That's going to be such a big hit of a game. Oh man, Tony Hawk, people love those games. They miss them so much. They used to be so big. Plus those remakes of 1 and 2 did so well. Of course they should remake 3 and 4. Well, here's the reality of it. Even though for us as consumers, it might make sense to put out more games, like more Tony Hawk games and more Donkey Kong games, and these are great IP that are well established that anyone would love to experience. The problem is where we have gotten with this horrible reality of modern gaming is that the amount of money a company like Activision makes selling Nicki Minaj and Snoop Dogg and Amazon Prime character skins on Call of Duty Season 4 of a game that will just get replaced in 8 months with the next Call of Duty is just too fucking lucrative to allow one of your precious studios that's on life support doing Call of Duty grunt work to make a Donkey Kong game or a new Tony Hawk game. Can you imagine, like, what a fucking honor it is considered to be able to work on a Nintendo game? Nintendo is very closed-walled. They don't let just anyone work on their precious IP. The fact that Ubisoft got to do those 2 Raving Rabid, whatever, XCOM-style games is considered such a fucking honor. And there's a reason why, like, the visionary behind that game was, like, fucking crying on stage, so happy about that game. Because people grow up loving Nintendo and coming into the games industry with the most fond and inspired memories of these Nintendo games growing up. And you think about the idea of like Western developers getting hired or contracted by Nintendo to work on one of these beloved IPs. I mean, this is like being an animator and getting hired by Disney to work on fucking Mickey Mouse. Like this is like a once in a lifetime dream come true opportunity. And then the suits at Activision crunch the number. They look at the opportunities, the resources, where things are best applied, and they go, Now we'll make more money doing Doja Cat Amazon Prime bundles in Twitch drops that say 420 and have animated anthropomorphic blunts dancing around on April 20th for Call of Duty. So that's just going to be more lucrative. It's going to draw more attention and more user interaction. It's just going to net us more money anyway. Kids are going to swipe parents' credit cards over this shit. So unfortunately, we're just not able to allow Vicarious Visions to work on a fucking Donkey Kong game for Nintendo. So it kind of makes you want to like fucking stick your finger down your throat and throw up repeatedly and then become bulimic and then kill yourself, because this is unfortunately the reality of where we are. And this is going to explain a lot of what we're going to talk about with like, how could Xbox shut down Tengu Gameworks? How could Hi-Fi Rush not be enough for Xbox to be like, wow, what a great team we have on our hands. Let's continue to invest in these guys and double down. Because when you own Call of Duty, and when all the money to be made in the games industry is in bullshit like fucking Fortnite and Call of Duty and whatever live service game you can hopefully pray to God that you get off the ground, like Sea of Thieves, or God forbid they make a Halo game that actually resonates with audiences again. If you can do that shit, there's just so much more money to be made in seasonal content, in battle passes, in crossover support. Don't you want to see Bill Cosby and Thanos fight it out with some DLC skins? Isn't that more important than like a really thoughtful, mechanically creative Donkey Kong game made by a bunch of dudes in California? Actually, I don't know if Vicarious Visions is from California or Canada. I think they're from California. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Can you imagine? Can you fucking imagine? No, you're not going to get to work on that Donkey Kong game after all. In fact, what you're going to do is you're going to do support work on Diablo 2 and then get right back to work on Warzone updates. We need you to make the leaves look slightly less shitty on this fucking map that we're going to just delete from the face of the planet in 3 months when the next game comes out anyway. So fuck you, get to work. And that's where gaming has. Ooh, I want to be a game developer when I grow up. Yeah, tell yourself that, kid. I'm trying to be a little comedic, but I know it's coming off as like really negative and mean spirited. But you got to humor me a bit. I am mostly just being goofy, but it's hypocritical. It's disappointing, and it's disheartening to like come to the realization that this is kind of how it works. And I don't know. You feel for it. So just wanted to put those out there because, unfortunately, Activision being their own independent entity was not the end of the road for this kind of stupidity. And now we're going to get to see that kind of stupidity transfer over to Phil Spencer and the team at Xbox now that they are the owners of the Activision brand and all that entails. One more quick thing to note. This would normally be something we talk about a little more, but there's just so much other news to get to. Remedy has also canceled one of their in-development multiplayer projects, codenamed Kestrel. We talked about this a few months back, or maybe late last year. It was one of those Tencent multiplayer games they were working on, previously codenamed Vanguard. This is their premium cooperative multiplayer game. So they just said, we need our resources, all hands on deck on the sequel to Control and to this other project we're working on with Tencent. So sorry, our resources are just better spent elsewhere right now. And that just comes down to trying to get games out in a timely fashion under a reasonable budget, because games are just fucking expensive these days. So it's just so awesome. Everyone's constantly working on live service games instead of making inspired passion projects. All right, so let's just stop with all that here. We'll talk about kind of the usual stuff, and then we'll get into the main news. And of course, I should have mentioned this at the top. If you're listening to this podcast and you're going, I just want to fucking talk about Microsoft shutting down 4 studios, get to the good shit. As always, timestamps. Please go use the timestamps. Because I do want to offer some levity and some positivity in this week's episode. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about the games I've been playing, and then we'll get to the news. So games I've been playing. Before I can tell you about the games I've been playing, however, I gotta tell you, I know, we cut out some news, Remedy canceled a game, boohoo. Well, I just gotta tell you about what I've been eating, real quick, if I might. Food's important. Saturday afternoon, Lakeland, Florida. I notice a Moe's, Southwest Grill. We're in a shopping center, I see the Moe's from across the way, and I think to myself, goddamn, there are like no Moe's anywhere in Florida. For those not from the U.S., or maybe you're just someplace where Moe's doesn't exist, I don't know. Moe's Southwest Grill, it's like a quick, it's like Chipotle before Chipotle was a thing, and more focused on like fun Tex-Mex and less on like trying to capture on like Apple and Starbucks's brand loyalty appeal thing. So Moe's is, I don't know, think like Think like Chipotle, but slightly less pretentious. That's Moe's. Nachos, burritos, tacos, whatever. You walk in there, they yell at you, welcome to Moe's. You order some fucking food at the counter, you pay. Optionally, you tip. A lot of people don't tip. Got to talk about tipping culture. It's out of control. And then you eat your food and you go. But I haven't been to a Moe's in many, many, many years. But I have been hearing murmurings from beyond the grave. I don't know why the fuck I wanted to say that, but Moe's has this thing called stack, a Moe's stack, and what it basically is their interpretation, their attempt at Taco Bell's Crunchwrap Supreme. And as a huge Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme fan, I've been wanting to try the Moe's stack because I actually like Moe's quite a bit. I have very fond memories of eating their burritos. Growing up in Georgia, you get a Moe's like every 5 miles, so these are pretty easy to come by. And so I'm here. I'm in Lakeland, Florida this one morning, and I see, holy shit, they got a Moe's here. I got to take advantage of this opportunity and go try one of these Moe's stacks type things. So I walk in there, the line's like out the fucking door. It's like 11:20 a.m. I'm like, how is anyone even hungry right now? Why are we all here in line? Halfway through my wait in line, I realize, it's Cinco de Mayo, because half these white people are talking about Cinco de Mayo. So, of course. So just funny coincidence. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not a huge hindrance on anything. Staff was nice. People were nice. Everyone was orderly and very, very nice. So there's nothing to complain about here. I order my Moe's stack. These motherfuckers start asking me, how do you want it? Black beans, pinto beans? Do you want rice? Do you want pico de gallo? Do you want guacamole? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, whoa. I thought this was Moe's interpretation of a Crunchwrap Supreme. Just give it to me the standard way. Give it to me the way you guys would put it in the commercial or on a picture if you were advertising it. And so basically, it's like a Crunchwrap Supreme. So you got like the star-shaped little burrito type soft tortilla with a crunchy tortilla in the middle. But they put like chicken, black beans, pico de gallo, sour cream, a little melty queso, and sprinkled cheese. I asked them to throw in some lettuce. Normally I would jazz it up a little more because they got a lot of toppings. They have some really interesting toppings, but I'm trying to create what Taco Bell has and compare rather than just create whatever the hell I want. So we get all wrapped up. The thing looks nice. It's quite fucking hefty. It's $12, which I'm like, holy shit, that's like more than twice the price of a Crunchwrap Supreme. So this thing better be good. But in all fairness, it's more premium ingredients, and the thing is like almost double the size of a Crunchwrap Supreme. So it's not like it's not like, it's $12 and there's no excuse. I mean, there's some reason behind it. So would I spend $12 on this thing regularly? Hell no. But for a one and done try, okay, $12 it is. So I bite into this motherfucker, not knowing what to expect, knowing that I really like Moe's. It's been a long time since I've had Moe's, and I am a Taco Bell fan for life. That is until Taco Bell acquires KFC and starts firing half the fucking staff, and then gives me mixed messages about potentially putting KFC chicken on the Taco Bell menu. I don't know, but I bite into this thing, and you know what? The shape is fun. I like the crunch. I like the idea of them trying to do their Crunchwrap Supreme, but this motherfucking thing just tastes like a burrito, which left me thinking, is the reason why everything tastes so special at Taco Bell because nothing at Taco Bell tastes like Mexican food? Because I'm eating this Moe's stack, and it's good. I don't regret buying it. I didn't have a bad meal. In fact, I quite enjoyed it. Finished it up. It was good stuff. Shared it with my girlfriend. She liked it. It's just, I just felt like I was eating a star-shaped burrito. And so I'm left thinking, Moe's stack? How about Moe's? Nah. Because next time I want a Moe's stack, I'll just get a burrito because I prefer the form factor. I love eating out of the tinfoil wrap. It's so fun. So I'm just going to go for the burrito next time. Moe's stack, you don't live up to the hype. It's not bad. I mean, you're great. Your ingredients are great. Everything was there. It's that thing I'm always saying with McDonald's. People shit on McDonald's. Oh, McDonald's food is so bad. Yeah. Whatever. I get it. You go to a place, you get a $20 burger. It's way nicer than a Big Mac. It tastes way better. It's higher quality ingredients. It's better for you. Blah blah blah. It's not fast food. Whatever. You don't go to McDonald's because you think you're being healthy or whatever, or you think you're being fancy. You go to McDonald's because McDonald's has that unique taste you can't get anywhere else. So a Big Mac tastes like a Big Mac, and there's no other burger that tastes like a Big Mac. It just is what it is. That's the thing that makes McDonald's unique. Same thing applies to Taco Bell. It's not that the Moe's stack was bad. The Moe's stack was pretty damn good, but it just tasted like a burrito at the end of the day, and a Crunchwrap Supreme doesn't taste like a burrito. It tastes like a Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme. And so for that reason alone, just like with McDonald's, I got to give them the W on the Big Mac and on their unique flavor profile and how no one else's french fries taste like McDonald's. Same thing applies to Taco Bell. No one else tastes like Taco Bell. Taco Bell, you are a god among men. Are you the highest quality? Are you fancy? Are you healthy? No, it's not about any of that shit. It's about how you offer fast and convenient food that is unique and tastes like something all into its own. And for that, Taco Bell wins this round. That's it for what I've been eating. Now let's get on to what I've been playing. I don't want to linger on this too much longer, but I am still playing Fallout 4. I'm loving Fallout 4. I just got to be completely honest with you. I've been so absorbed by like generic middle-aged man homeowner shit. Like I'm like mowing the lawn and pulling weeds and like vacuuming and stuff that like I just spent less time lately playing video games. And when I have had free time to play video games, I've just been very absorbed in the NHL playoffs. And so I spent a lot of time this weekend watching hockey, cleaning up around the house, doing yard work, and then going to Lakeland for God knows what fucking reason and ending up at a Moe's on Cinco de Mayo. So it's all good stuff. No complaints. Everything's good. It's just I don't have too much to say about Fallout 4 other than I'm just tinkering around with it. I'm on the last mission of the main quest line. I keep deviating from it and just exploring and doing other side content, which I'm enjoying way more than the main quest line. But I will say, I'm at the very end of the game, and you have to build some fucking teleportation contraption. And this quest sucks ass because I don't want to interface with like the base building stuff, and this quest is making me do that. And so now I'm watching YouTube videos about like how to gather resources, how to build this, where to put that. And I'm hating all of that. But when I'm not focusing on that one quest that's making me mad right now, I'm enjoying literally everything else about this game. I restarted it, by the way. I think it was a quick resume issue. I figured out how to jump in this game. I was just having a bug maybe. I don't know. But I don't know, man. This game, I feel like it just got such a bad rep back in the day. Now that I'm at an age and a place in my life where I properly enjoy these kinds of Bethesda-style games, you know, I loved Starfield. I like Wasteland 3 a ton. It's just this game clicks with me in a way where it's like if I were as into these kinds of games in the way I am now back in 2015, I feel like I would have been head scratching at that time going, why the fuck does everybody like say this game is disappointing? This game is so good. It's so fun and it feels so good because I've tried to play Fallout 3 so many times and get so frustrated by its god-awful combat. The shooting in this game feels great. It's not as good as Starfield, but it feels great. Like it's for the kind of game that it is, it feels great. And so I don't know, I prefer this game running at 60 FPS on my Xbox, good combat, fun world to explore, great side questing, fuck the base building stuff. But otherwise, Fallout 4, I'm going to try to move on from you pretty soon here, though, because I got to get to some other stuff. I don't want to go back to this game and linger on it for too long when I'm in the middle of like 5 other things already. Speaking of things that I shouldn't be playing right now that are definitely taking away time, Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. So Cronky gifted me this for my birthday a few weeks back, and I've been dabbling in the Star Wars Battlefront collection. First of all, I must say, yes, all the complaints you've heard about the online system sucking and how this game is just missing tons of features and it's just not ready for prime time. There's some big issues and even audio bugs and stuff that just ruin the moment-to-moment experience. All of that is true. I've experienced all of those woes with this game already, but I do have to say, just going back on single player, sitting on the couch, just jumping into a fucking battle online, doing some conquest and just kind of going through and reliving the old days. This game, it's reminding me of back in a time where I didn't hate Star Wars, but I didn't love Star Wars. I just, Star Wars was this thing where sometimes it was conveniently cool. And I feel like as a kid who didn't grow up with the original 3 Star Wars movies, I didn't grow up watching like 4, 5, and 6, but I did grow up around the time the prequels came out. I feel like the only love I ever had for Star Wars was like a handful of video games and Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, just because I know it's a controversial take if you're not around my age range, but I don't know. I think Revenge of the Sith is just a fucking fun movie. If you were also 10 years old like I was when it came out, it'd be pretty hard to watch that movie and not think it's at least cool to watch and aesthetically interesting and has some good action. And so, I don't know. I feel like this game is bringing me back. Like it's like washing away all the modern like debates and issues with the Disney Plus shows and Disney fucked up Star Wars and Rian Johnson's a piece of shit and Kathleen Kennedy should die and she's woke and like it takes all that shit away for a second, brings me back to the early 2000s. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, Star Wars Battlefront's so damn good. This game holds up. Shout out to Pandemic. They were one of the great developers. I love these guys so much. Everything they worked on is so fucking good. And fuck you EA for shuttering these guys. They made some of the fucking coolest games of the Xbox, PS2, GameCube generation, and I so dearly miss this team, this formation of developers, ideas and creative output, because this stuff was so great. And shout out to Star Wars back when it was a thing that kids my age were confused about, because the prequels make no goddamn sense if you're 8 years old trying to watch them, but I guess they're fun to watch because it's space aliens and stuff. But I don't know, it's a feel good game. It's a nice nostalgic trip, walk down memory lane, and I'm enjoying it a bit. It has its issues. It's a little egregious for what they charged and what they ended up delivering, but it's fun. If you're nostalgic for these games like I am, it's still a good time. All right, that's it for what I've been playing, you guys. Let's take a quick breather and then hop into all this bullshit that we got coming up right now. All right, let's just jump right into this. I'm going to be completely honest. I was trying to find a way to organize and structure this conversation, and then it just kept exploding and getting worse and worse with this guy said this, now Jason Schreier's got this update, now Tom Warren with The Verge has got this update, now IGN's got this update. Everyone had an update with worse news and more information, and did you know that this thing happened afterwards, and oh, this developer was working on this before everyone lost their jobs. And so we're just going to try to read this kind of in the order in which it happens. We've got plenty of quotes, we got plenty of sources, we got plenty of articles, and we got some listener comments as well. So we're just going to kind of go through this, and I have a million which ways we could take this. I have a feeling we'll be talking about this for over an hour, and I also have a feeling that when I'm done recording this podcast, I'll go, fuck, I wanted to mention that too. Fuck, I forgot to bring that up. And I'm sure tomorrow when I wake up and this podcast goes live, Jason Schreier or someone at IGN will be like, ooh, also this happened. Phil Spencer was putting incriminating photos of employees in lockers and saying, if you don't resign effective immediately, I will put these on Live Leak. Fuck you. I don't know. Probably. So let's just jump right into it and try to tackle this as best we can with where we are at as of 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday night. So starting with the big one, of course, IGN kind of had the scoop on this, although, I don't know, Jason Schreier was teasing the story and then IGN kind of beat him to it, it looks like. But let's just get right into it with their write-up. Microsoft has closed a number of Bethesda studios, including Redfall maker Arcane Austin, Hi-Fi Rush and Evil Within developer Tango Gameworks, and more in devastating cuts as Bethesda, as IGN can confirm. Alpha Dog Games, mobile maker of Mighty Doom, will also close. Roundhouse Studios will be absorbed into Elder Scrolls Online developer ZeniMax Online Studios. Microsoft, currently valued at over $3 trillion, did not say how many staff will lose their jobs, but significant layoffs are inevitable. IGN has asked Bethesda for comment. Microsoft declined to expand further. On Redfall, the disastrous vampire co-op game, this is a little bit of their editorialization. I didn't go through and fine-tune it because there was so much to get in here. On Redfall, the disastrous vampire co-op game that will now not receive promised updates, including an offline mode for a new character DLC, as Microsoft has ended all development of the game effective immediately. Microsoft said Redfall will remain online to play and will provide a make-good offer for those who bought the Hero DLC. Arcane Lyon, the French-based Arcane studio, which is working on Marvel's Blade, survives the cull, as does Bethesda Game Studios, makers of Elder Scrolls Fallout Starfield, Machine Games, makers of Wolfenstein and the upcoming Indiana Jones Great Circle, and Doom developer id Software. They are all unaffected by these layoffs. In an email sent to staff by head of Game Studios, Matt Booty, Microsoft blamed the cuts on a reprioritization of titles and resources, the email verified by IGN below. So this is the email in its entirety, and I'm going to read all of it. Keep in mind, anytime these internal emails are released, they're released with full understanding that these emails will be immediately shared to the public. So just know that we're not going to get the full story by this email, even though this is an internal email that Matt Booty sent to people who were being laid off and to studios that were being closed and internal people at ZeniMax and Bethesda. The way in which this email is written is entirely put together to say, hey, Jason Schreier or someone like him will have this shit up on the internet in 25 minutes. So here's basically a PR statement for what's going on. And the email reads, today I'm sharing changes that we are making to our Bethesda and ZeniMax teams. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles. Highlight that. High-impact titles. They say that multiple times. It's important to them. And further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds, which you have nurtured for many decades. Okay, again, so You wanted a fucking new Fallout game to go with your beautiful Fallout TV show. You got layoffs instead. All right, he goes, to double down on the franchises and invest to build new ones requires us to look across the business to identify the opportunities that are best positioned for success. The reprioritization of titles and resources means a few teams will be realigned to others and that some of our colleagues will be leaving us. Here are the changes going into effect. And he does 4 bullet points, and starting off with here we go. Arcane Austin. The studio will close, and some members of the team will be joining other studios to work on projects across Bethesda. Arcane Austin has a history of making impactful and innovative games, and it has a pedigree that everyone should be proud of. Redfall's previous update will be its last as we end all development on the game. The game and all of its servers will remain online for players to enjoy, and we will provide a make good offer to those who purchased Hero DLC. Next up, he says, Alpha Dog Studios. The studio will close. We appreciate the team's creativity in bringing Doom to new players. Mighty Doom will be sunset on August 7th, and we will be turning the game off. We will be turning off the ability for players to make any purchases in the game at that time. Or no, that's done now. So you can't make purchases in the game now, but they'll put the game offline on August 7th. All right, next up, and this is perhaps the most insulting because it's the shortest write-up, and it's buried in the middle here, or it should be front and center. Tango Gameworks will also close. We are thankful for their contributions to Bethesda and players around the world. Hi-Fi Rush will continue to be available to players on all platforms it is on today. If that doesn't it's been over a day at this point, and just reading that little again, instant blood boil, just instantly, just want to fucking choke someone. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Hi-Fi Rush, the first critically acclaimed game to come out of Xbox in a goddamn million fucking years. Plus, we had nothing to do with this game because we bought this developer while they were in development on this game. So it really has nothing to do with us. The reason why this game exists and is good is because Xbox didn't fucking interfere with it at all. Came out with amazing reviews. We shadow dropped it, so we had no fucking opportunity to market it at all. And people fucking loved it, ate it up, and it got tons of respect and praise. And now we just ported it over to PlayStation so other people can enjoy it, where it's doing great over there on that platform. Fuck you, all go home, you're fired. Tokyo, go fuck yourself. We are no longer doing anything in Japan. So much for Phil Spencer's comments on we want to expand into Japan and support devs over there and get more Xbox Japanese crossover content, whatever. Sure. All right. We got to put a pin in that, though, and come back to it because I just want to be a really angry guy reading that. And then the last one here, Roadhouse Games. The team at Roadhouse Games will be joining ZeniMax Online Studios. Roadhouse has played a key role in many of our recent launches, and bringing them into ZeniMax Online Studios to work on Elder Scrolls Online will mean that they can do even more to grow the world that millions of players call home. All right, so they're getting a little Vicarious Visions situation here, right? They're getting folded in to support this big ongoing live service game that makes tons of money because people buy skins. Thank God you can't fucking be Nicki Minaj in Elder Scrolls Online, at least not yet. Okay. You guys don't get to create new and exciting games. Now you get to be bitch support work on someone else's game. All right, the email continues and says, with this consolidation of our Bethesda Studios teams so that we can invest more deeply in the portfolio of games and new IP, a small number of roles across select Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will also be eliminated. So not just these 4 teams closing, but also some people elsewhere within the company are losing their jobs. Those whose roles will be impacted will be notified today. And we will ask that you please treat your departing colleagues with respect and compassion. We will provide our full support to those who are impacted by today's notifications and through their transitions, including severance benefits informed by local laws. There's that phrase again they used when they fired 2,000 people earlier in the year. Remember they said severance benefits informed by local laws. It's like written like legal speak. There's no humanity to this email. These changes are not a reflection of the creativity and skill of the talented individuals at these teams or the risk they took with new things. It's like they're trying to jump in front of a fucking bullet with that one, right? Highlight that. I acknowledge that these changes are also disruptive to the various support teams across ZeniMax and Bethesda that bring our games to market. We are making these tough decisions to create capacity to increase investment in other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games. Bethesda remains one of the key pillars of Xbox's strong portfolio of amazing games and thriving communities. As we look to the future, there is an impressive lineup of games on the horizon. In 2024 alone, we have Starfield, Shattered Spaces, Fallout 76 Skyline Valley, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Elder Scrolls Online Golden Road. As we align our plans and resources to best set ourselves up for the complex and changing industry, our teams across Arcane Leon, Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, Machine Games, ZeniMax Online Studios, and the Bethesda Publishing Corporation corporate teams will be well positioned to build new IP, explore new game concepts, and expand our existing franchises. Signed, Matt. All right. Oh man, I want to just immediately rattle off, but let's finish up with IGN's write-up and then we'll go. In a series of tweets, Arcane Leon chief Dinga Bakaba hit out at the cuts, calling them absolutely terrible. To an executive reading this, quote, friendly reminder that video games are an entertainment/cultural industry, and your business as a corporation is to take care of your artists/entertainers and help them create value for you. He continues, don't throw us into a gold fever gamut. Don't use straw men from miscalculations or blind spots. Don't make our work environments Darwinist jungles. You say we make you proud when we make good games. Make us proud when times are tough. We know you can. We've seen it before. For now, great teams are sunsetting before our eyes again, and it's fucking a gut stab. Leon is safe, but please be tactful and discerning about all of this, and respect our affected folks. Voice and leave it room to be heard. It's their story to tell, their feelings to express. Inside baseball, but if I read immersive sim curse from the community, especially from all the fellow devs, I swear to God, please, let's talk about the real challenges instead of rehashing irrational anxieties of the past. Even more inside baseball, but very, very wide range, as a wise and sorely missed man said, please stop. Where to begin? So, honestly, we should just go on and read these follow-ups from Bloomberg and The Verge and all that to get even more context before we start talking about this, but I do want to get some, initial thoughts out here just because I feel like all the things I want to say are just bleeding out of my fucking brain at this point. Here's the thing. Surface level knee-jerk reaction response. Everything is so fucked. The problem with this, besides the obvious, besides the people losing their jobs and how insanely inhumane the way these giant corporations act and the way they're just so fucking flippant and scorched earth with, they have all the money in the world when it comes time to acquire and buy and absorb and consolidate and become more and more and grow and grow and grow. And they have no fucking regard for who they impact when it's time to eliminate redundancies. And now the economy's tough. And now the industry is ever evolving and changing. And now we got to cut 2,000 people. Now we got to close 4 studios. Now we got to do this. Why? Because you spent way too much fucking money on Activision because you got greedy and you wanted Call of Duty in your portfolio. Because now that you guys are such a big fucking entity, the higher-ups at Microsoft can't not stare at you and wonder what the fuck you're doing. Because when Xbox was this little thing in the back of Microsoft's closet, basically saying ooh, look, we contributed to 4% of Microsoft's revenue this quarter, the investors and the higher ups in the company were like, who gives a shit about you? Go fuck off and do your little fucking Halo thing. But then the second you acquired Call of Duty and became such a big part of Microsoft that you outstripped Windows in terms of bringing in revenue for the company. Now all of a sudden investors are staring at you, and Satya Nadella and his team are looking at you and they're going, all right, now you're in the big boy league. What are you going to do? How are we going to be more efficient? How are you going to bring money? How are you going to guarantee growth quarter over quarter for our investors now? And now Xbox is immediately in a situation where it's like, oh fuck, it's the meme where the guy's pressing the red button, go back, go back, go back. Slap the go back button. It's too fucking late. This is why I spent 2 years on this podcast bitching and moaning and screaming at the clouds about how Microsoft shouldn't be trying to buy Activision. We don't need more consolidation in the industry. This isn't good. This isn't a natural fit for Xbox. Xbox has no business getting into this shit. And I got worn down over time, and I just said, so fucking be it. If putting Call of Duty on Game Pass is what's going to make everyone happy and it's going to make us win the console war or whatever the fuck, whatever. And I'm actually shocked at how little time it took for everything to blow up. I mean, they instantly laid off 2,000 people. We haven't gotten the... Keep in mind, they just closed 4 studios. We're about to get to it, but we now know there's more hardship to come. Call of Duty might not even fucking go into Game Pass. What did we get out of this? I know what Microsoft got out of it. They're now one of the biggest game publishers in the world. That's great. That's great that the biggest tech company and the highest valued company of all time is now even more valued because now they absorb the Call of Duty machine. That's great for them. But what did we as consumers get out of this? Diablo 4 is now in Game Pass? Whoop-de-fucking-do. I spent 7 hours playing Diablo 4 so far. It's a fine game. I would have just bought it for sale for $20 one day, 2 years after it came out anyway. Who the fuck cares about that? We've gotten nothing out of this deal. It's been terrible for the people that we need to show respect to, who have created these amazing games for us, to the people who fucking sweat and bleed to make incredible games that we can all enjoy and, you know, appreciate, and that help make the Xbox lineup what it is, and that help service you know, something like Game Pass and make it worth our fucking monthly $17-18 subscription service. It's like it's just nonsense. Like these people are all being affected horribly, and we're receiving nothing as consumers. And the only thing that came out of this whole acquisition is that now Xbox owns Call of Duty and gets all the fucking rips off every time a fucking delinquent, sweaty, pimple-faced 19-year-old boy buys a Nicki Minaj skin so he can give her a fucking tricked out gold tier gun that he unlocked by following his favorite fucking TikTok guy who's like, here's how to build the most meta build on Warzone. Get the MP5. Make sure you get the high-res impact target sights. Make sure you do the smallest clip you possibly can so you can still get infrared bullets. Make sure you get the ninja skin on there because it looks so fucking sick. This is what we got at. This is what Xbox is. So we're so far removed from remember when Halo was good, and we're so far removed from when's the next Gears of War coming out, and we're so far removed from Quantum Break's a pretty fucking good game. You guys should maybe give it a try. And we're so far removed from all the conversations we've had around Xbox. I mean, this makes like Don Matrix look quaint at this point. The whole like, we have an Xbox for people who don't want to play online all day. It's called the Xbox 360. This makes $4.99 Xbox One, no way to not get Kinect included in the bundle, like look quaint by comparison. Like what a shit show. PlayStation didn't put out like a single game last year. They put out Spider-Man, and it's a huge game, don't get me wrong, but they put out like one game last year. This year, Helldivers, which was a great game, but again, it was a fluke. They didn't know that. They thought it was going to be some like kind of blip in the wind. They thought it was going to be like some kind of little thing that came and went, and it would find its core audience and make a little bit of money, and then they'd move on. They didn't know it was going to become what it became. PlayStation has nothing up their sleeves right now. We know of nothing. They won't talk. They won't hold a presentation. They won't do a showcase. PlayStation's doing great because it's a fucking machine that's on fire, or it's like a train that's been in motion for so long you can't stop this thing. It's just going. But they have no fucking games. Nintendo keeps pushing back the announcement date for their next console. The Switch is older than my grandma, and there's nothing going on in the world of Nintendo for the most part right now. Although I think Nintendo technically has had like the most impressive output in the past 12 months of any of these big teams, which is kind of impressive. But for the most part, there's nothing going on with Nintendo. There's nothing going on with PlayStation. Xbox has got, they own Call of Duty now. They got an Indiana Jones game coming out. They got Avowed. They got Hellblade 2. They got all this shit coming out. We're expecting a new Gears of War to be announced in a few weeks. Why can't that just be the case? Why can't the story of 2024 for Xbox just be, we're a $3 trillion fucking company. We don't need to lay off 2,000 people. We're a $3 trillion company. We don't need to close down 4 studios. We're a $3 trillion company. We don't need to screw over every fucking one of our fans and put all of our games on PlayStation. We're a $3 trillion company. We're going to sit back. We're going to let the next 12 months roll out, and we're going to watch as PlayStation does nothing, Nintendo does nothing, and people go, ooh, Hellblade 2 looks good. Ooh, Indiana Jones looks good. Ooh, Avowed's awesome. I want to check that game out. Why couldn't that just be the way this rolled out? Like, why is it that the team at Xbox every 10 seconds is like, oh, I really feel an urge right now to fire 200 people and let all of Twitter know and get mad at me for it right now? It's like, can you just keep it in your fucking pants, Microsoft? And the answer to the question I'm asking is, if we don't understand why, it's obvious. It's because they're so big right now that Xbox is not this little pet project, and now they're being scrutinized. And that's what we'll get into in a little bit with the Bloomberg stuff and everything. It's that it's not really about what Phil Spencer's vision is anymore. It's not really about Matt Booty's ability to lead these teams and manage all these teams. It's now there's people looking at them going, what the fuck are you doing over there? How long has this team been working on this? How much money will that project net us? Like, is that worth it? They've been doing that for 12 years. What game were they working on over there? And I don't know. This company, they made a shitty. They worked with Machine Games to make this shitty Wolfenstein spinoff about these two sisters that no one liked, and then Bethesda forced them to make Redfall, and then we bought Bethesda, and then they said, please, for the love of God, cancel Redfall. We don't want to make this game. This game sucks. And then we at Xbox said, Nah, make Redfall, fuck you, you'll do it. And then the game came out and it sucked like they said it would, and then everyone hated it, and now we're gonna fire them all, I guess. Like, what? This is how you manage up to Microsoft? This is where we are now? It's despicable, man. And it's such a bad note to go out on, because for Arcane Austin, they're so beloved for their work on Prey. They're such a beloved team, and they've been put in a shit situation where their support work on these other terrible games, and they were forced to make Redfall. And I'm one of the people who thought Redfall was okay. It's a very deeply flawed game. It's rough around the edges, but it's a fun little 12-hour, 6 out of 10 style game. It's definitely not up to the standard of what a team like Arcane Austin is capable of making, but it's a decent time for like a budgety AA type of weekend experience. But they didn't want to make that game. They begged you to cancel it. And I get that there's something intrinsically wrong with that studio now, because so much core talent has left. And I'm sure in the years since Redfall has come out, it's been a mess. It's like, what do we do next? Well, we got to fix Redfall before we can move on to a new game. But how do we move on to a new game when we just lost like all the talent we had? I'm sure it's a fucking mess there. And so maybe there's some rationale in closing it down and just saying like, listen, we don't need these resources spread so thin over here when this team's already such a fucking hacked up mess. But they wouldn't be that way if you just canceled Redfall and said, hey guys, don't leave, come back. Don't worry, Xbox owns you now. We're not Bethesda. We're going to let you make whatever game you want to make. Go do that. Like Dinga Bakaba says, the guy from Arcane Leon, like he fucking said, like, don't blame it on the immersive Sims thing. This isn't because people don't play games like Dishonored or Deathloop or Prey. This is because they were forced to make these shitty games. And a bunch of people quit, and now this studio is a husk of its former self. And so that is so gut-wrenching to think about, because I remember last year when Phil Spencer did that kind of funny interview, and he was kind of like, that tell-all, he was like pouring himself out on Kind of Funny's podcast, and he was talking about Redfall being a disappointment. He says, I would bet on those guys again, that I believe in them as a team. I believe in what they can do. I would bet on them again. And the sad part in all this is I believe that. I believe Phil Spencer sees the potential in Arcane Austin and knows what makes them special. And I believe he believes that if given the free reign to make the game that they want to make and that they're capable of making, they'll make another great game like they did with Prey. But the fact of the matter is, you were in charge when you acquired Bethesda, and you let them keep making Redfall even though they said, don't fucking let us make this game. It sucks. And now they're being shut down for it. Or maybe not for that, but they're being shut down. And this is the note they have to go out on. Forced to make a game they didn't want to make, and then they lose their jobs after a year of, I think we're in the clear. It's been a year now. We're fixing Redfall. We got new updates for it. I guess everything's good. Boom. No, fuck you. It's closed a year later. I mean, like almost to the day. I think, didn't Redfall come out like May 2nd last year? So it's devastating. Then you got Alpha Dog Games, and I know this is like a little easier for people to kind of look over. Oh, it's a mobile team. Kind of surprised you couldn't just fold these guys in with one of Activision's teams. And wait, wasn't the reason why you needed to buy Activision because Xbox needs a prominent place on mobile? So why are you closing down one of your only mobile teams? I've played Mighty Doom. I have it downloaded on my phone right now. It's not my favorite game of all time, but it's fun. It's cute. It's creative. It's a good time. Why are you shutting? I'm confused. If you're trying to build an Xbox app store and storefront for mobile devices, and if you're trying to acquire Activision because you need King and you need mobile expertise to help Xbox grow on other platforms that aren't just the traditional home console, why are you shutting down a mobile team? That makes no fucking sense. Where's the logic in this? And I think the one people are the least upset about, or the least like torn up about, is Roundhouse Games, just because they're getting folded into ZeniMax Online. So it's not that they're being laid off, it's that they're just being reorganized. But we just saw this happen with Vicarious Visions. Hey, we want to make a Tony Hawk game. Hey, we want to make a Donkey Kong game, and Nintendo's going to let us do it. Nah, fuck you. You do support work for this other thing that makes money on a monthly basis. All right. There's your creativity gone. There's your new IP gone. There's your potential for developers to make, like passion projects and inspired new games to incentivize people to subscribe and stay subscribed to services like Game Pass. There goes that opportunity, because now these guys are on bitch work. They're doing support work for ZeniMax Online Studios. Great. ESO, yeah, go. ESO, everyone's favorite fucking part of an Xbox game showcase, when they start talking about updates to ESO and Fallout 76. Ooh, I'm so glad that we're getting more investment in that as other developers lose their jobs for making Hi-Fi Rush. And that brings us to, of course, the most gut-wrenching one, Tango Gameworks. We were just talking last week about how Shinji Mikami left this team about a year ago and all that, and how he was like, hey, I wanted to go make new games that weren't horror, that were new and creative, and do different things. And it's like, hey, that's what Xbox was going to allow you to do. Why the fuck did you leave? And now Tango Gameworks is being shut down shortly after doing that. And it's like, again, what the fuck is going on, man? This game comes out. It's critically acclaimed. I get it. You know, Hi-Fi Rush didn't have a marketing lead up because it was a surprise launch. It wasn't released physically, so it never had, you know, the opportunity to be discovered on store shelves. So I understand Hi-Fi Rush probably didn't sell all that well. And it probably didn't drive Game Pass subscribers because a game like Hi-Fi Rush is seen as like supplemental to a Game Pass subscription, not like the reason to subscribe. It's like in Netflix language, it's like you subscribe to Netflix because you want to watch Stranger Things or Orange is the New Black or House of Cards or whatever, right? You stay subscribed to Netflix because you get sucked into watching Is It Cake or Love is Blind or the roast of Tom Brady or something like that. It's not to say I'm not making a judgment on quality, although it could seem that way based on the examples I just used. I'm making a judgment call on. I know people are going to be like, ooh, the new Halo game, ooh, Starfield is included in Game Pass. Let me subscribe to that service to play that game. I understand those tentpole games are going to be the things that draw new subscribers, but the things that are going to keep people there and make them not want to unsubscribe is going to be little surprises. Games that's like, I wouldn't have subscribed to Game Pass for that game, but I'll give it a try because I already have Game Pass, and oh, this game's actually awesome. This is why I love Game Pass, is because I get access to new little discoveries like Hi-Fi Rush. So games like that are important. And as I tweeted out for like the first time in a million years, no one has as little of an excuse to shut down teams than Microsoft does, than Xbox does. Because as I've talked about on this podcast for years at this point now, the whole magic and wonder of what makes Game Pass so special is that it offers and facilitates a place where you can have AA, indie, big open world, multiplayer live service, single player cinematic games, everything under one umbrella, because people pay $17-18 a month to have Game Pass Ultimate, and they can spend 200 hours in Starfield and 300 hours on Halo Infinite between the campaign, the multiplayer, and all that, and they can spend 20 hours on Hi-Fi Rush, and they can dabble in a couple indies and go, oh, I didn't like that one. I only played 45 minutes of that one. Ooh, I loved that one. Oh, nobody Saves the World. Love that game. Okay, didn't expect that game. I was just dabbling with some new games on Game Pass, fell down the rabbit hole with that one. It's my new favorite game of the year. Like, that's the kind of magic of a service like Game Pass. The games you know you want to play, and the unexpected surprises and everything in between. And when you shut down a game like Tango Gameworks, of course, known for their horror games like The Evil Within, but when you shut them down after they make this new, fun, vibrant, colorful, exciting, creative, brand new IP like Hi-Fi Rush, you inject creativity and excitement and freshness and much needed freshness into the industry that we haven't seen in a long time. And as they said last year, this is their new breakout hit. This was the first Xbox game to come out in many years and be a brand new IP that hit the ground running and was immediately widely regarded. Did Hi-Fi Rush sell millions of copies and make tons and tons of money? No. But is it obvious that you keep a team like this going and say, make a Hi-Fi Rush 2, try another game that, you know, another new unique IP and see what else you come up with? Of course. Of course that's what you should do with a team like this, because their kind of content is going to feed Game Pass well. It's going to inject a new life into the Xbox's ecosystem. It's just, you're closing this down? For what fucking reason? And now everyone should be worried because a lot of the teams Xbox owns now are of a similar stature as teams like Tango Gameworks. I mean, Ninja Theory, they're about to put out a game in a few weeks. They're of a similar size and scope as a team like Tango Gameworks. Obsidian, Compulsion Games, etc., like In Exile, Double Fine. Like, a lot of these teams they own are of this caliber. These teams that make like low-end AAA games or AA games or smaller games or more niche games. Like, that's what you have, Microsoft. So why could you not keep Tango Gameworks around. And Phil Spencer's been talking for years to fans. Oh, we want to get Japanese support. Oh, we want to expand into Japan. You just closed your only Japanese team. You're not... Xbox has nothing in Japan now because you just closed your only Japanese team. So now I firmly believe as an Xbox fan that I am not going to get another Xbox team in Japan. I am not going to get more Japanese support, aside from like the one-off, Sega Xbox relationship to style game, like a new Yakuza or something like that, or Phantasy Star. But save for like the odd game here or there, like there's no Japanese support for Xbox. So any idea of growing Xbox in Japan, fucking forget about that. Don't worry, it's not about that anymore. It doesn't matter if Xbox grows into Japan now because we got fucking Call of Duty, and we can sell a weekend track pack so that when you're driving your fucking tanks, airplanes, helicopters around in Warzone 3.0, you can listen to your favorite tracks by popular artist The Weeknd while you shoot down and mow down tons of brown-looking people across a desert landscape. Congratulations. Xbox and Japan are dead. Okay, so that's awesome. It's just, I don't know, man. It's so much to take in, like the what the fuck is going on here kind of attitude. And I want to get these initial kind of impressions out of the way, so we can read the updates we've received as the past day has gone on, and then have further context to what is now going on in addition to all this news that is just shocking and mind blowing. So Mike Ibarra, former Blizzard boss, and before that, Xbox guy, wrote out on Twitter, and he had a whole like, hey, don't blame Phil Spencer for this. I'm sure he's hurting as much as everybody else. And so he wrote the following on Twitter. He says, I see a lot of shots being thrown at Phil Spencer today over Xbox's announcements. I get it, but knowing him as a human, I know it hurts him as much as anyone else. I can't speak for him and for all the leaders there, but I do know him, and I know what he's likely going through. I'm not trying to defend the decision. I think we all get ourselves into situations that are tough and unexpected. Certainly I have. It's part of the job, as is the accountability for the outcomes. But he's a good human, and he cares deeply about the creative process for developers. This is my firsthand experience in working closely with him for 8+ years and knowing him for 24+ years. I 100% understand the anger and confusion. I feel deeply sorry for those teams impacted today over the last few months. Ibarra continued, I didn't agree with every decision made at Xbox, and I think that was pretty clear. That's a little nugget of information. Sounds like that has something to do with why he's not there. But I do believe in the product and leadership, and I know how hard these decisions could be. Xbox could have a very bright future. I hope they're able to realize this, and all of the teams are able to have an incredible experience together. It's certainly a tough time that needs great clarity into what the plan ahead is and how gamers everywhere can be excited for it. So, listen, man, Mike Ibarra, I appreciate the clarification. I get the whole, like, hey, man, just remember your outrage as you're directing it to people. These are humans, and not everyone, you don't know all the ins and outs. I get that. And a lot of this is going to be us angrily shaking our fists at people and situations that we don't fully understand, people we definitely don't know, and stories we only have 50 to 75% of the information to really fully understand what all is happening and why it happened. So I get that, and I respect that, and I get that Phil Spencer. Listen, I still retain this to this day. I do believe that deep down, Phil Spencer is the reason people like him. He's the gamers guy. He's the guy who is he's here for and by the gamers, right? He's for the devs, he's for the consumers, and he knows what people want, and he has an exciting and creative vision for Xbox, and he is impassioned and emboldened to try and make that happen. The truth of the matter, though, with Phil Spencer is it has just been so long. He's been here in this position. He's been in power for like over a decade now, for about a decade, roughly. I think it was 2014 when he took on the role as head of Xbox. And so it's like, hey man, I get it. And I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I believe deep down that Phil Spencer probably is a well-intended guy who wants to see Xbox thrive. I'm sure he doesn't want to fucking shut down studios and lay people off. But at the end of the day, he is also a businessman. It takes a very specific kind of person to do the job he does. And he works for the most corporate corporation in the history of corporations. And so it is just a simple fact of the matter that the buck has to stop with someone, and whether he meant for all this to happen or didn't, and I'm sure he absolutely didn't mean for this all to happen, the buck has to stop with someone. And at this point, it's like the fact that Phil Spencer, and the one that really gets me is Matt Booty, It's like the fact that these guys are still in their positions after all this, laying off all these people, studio closures, Xbox One, complete failure of a generation, Xbox Series X, complete failure of a generation, Xbox Game Pass, complete failure as an initiative. I mean, everything is failing to live up to what they're trying to build it out to be. And make no mistake, I'm not saying I hate Xbox, I hate Game Pass, I hate Xbox One. I'm saying the optics, the financial reality, the situation that this business is in is a failure relative to what they were trying to accomplish. And this has all been done under Phil Spencer. Maybe not the Xbox One, but how the Xbox One was steered and handled a year into its life and beyond. That's all under Phil Spencer, man. So someone's got to be held accountable here. And this is the thing I understand. A lot of these layoffs and studio closures and let's put these games on PlayStation, I truly believe this was not Phil Spencer's idea. This is not Matt Booty's idea. This was not the core team at Xbox. I don't think Sarah Bond and Matt Booty and Phil Spencer got into a fucking Microsoft Teams call one night and were like, guys, Xbox growth is just not where we want it to be. What should we do? And Matt Booty's like, let's fucking fire 4 studios worth of people. It'll be fun. And Phil Spencer's like, yeah, but first let's lay off 2,000 people and wait a few months before we do that. And then Sarah Bond's like, and we should put all of our fucking games on PlayStation. That'll be wild. I know that conversation is not what happened, and I don't believe that these are the people responsible for this. But what I do believe is that when, in 2021, when Activision were making fucking fools of themselves, and they were in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, and the news cycle was that Bobby Kotick threatened to kill an assistant one time. Bobby Kotick tried to help people who were sexually harassing women at the workplace to try and help them keep their jobs. He was going to bat for them so that he wouldn't lose key leadership and talent at his studios. Oh, did you know that there was a girl who fucking committed suicide at this Activision studio, and then people passed around photos of her nude at the office after that happened? These were the stories going on at Activision, and I bet you 100%. Satya Nadella wasn't fucking waking up at 4 a.m. doing workouts, drinking his fucking spinach smoothie going, oh, I wonder what kind of shit's happening in the gaming world right now. No, he wasn't the one who had the idea, oh my God, Activision's really down on one knee right now. We could just swoop in and buy these motherfuckers for pennies on the dollar. There's no way that was a Satya Nadella decision. This was a Phil Spencer decision. This was people at Xbox who are in tune with the games industry, who know what's going on, who see an opportunity and know how to, jump on it when they see one, were the ones who identified, hey, Activision's in a shit spot right now. This is a great opportunity for us to swoop in and say, maybe we can make a deal here. Maybe we can buy you out, Bobby. Maybe we can just make all this go away. What do you say? $69 billion. And that's how we got here. So did Phil Spencer wake up one day and say, I want to shut down 4 studios and fire 2,000 people in addition to that? No. Did Phil Spencer wake up one day and say, I want to put all my games on PlayStation and piss off longtime Xbox fans? No. But did Phil Spencer go, I think, numbers guys, do you think we could buy Activision right now? Yeah, that's Phil Spencer. He's the one who proposed that. He's the one who had to take that to the top and say, I think we have an opportunity to buy Activision, and here's my case for that. And he sold the higher-ups at Microsoft on this idea. And he got us into this and spent 2 years fighting the fucking CMA and FTC and Manny Pacquiao and all the rest trying to get this fucking deal to close. And he's the reason why the Call of Duty streaming rights are with Ubisoft, and you can't stream it on Game Pass, but maybe the games will come to Game Pass one day. Maybe, but Diablo 4 is there in the meantime, and everyone else is in the corners waiting for Banjo-Kazooie 4 to happen. It's like, that's not how this fucking works. Phil Spencer got us into this situation, and now the laying off people due to hiring redundancies, shutting down studios, people are spread too thin, we need to consolidate, we need to restructure, we need to reorganize, all this stuff. That's because you bought Activision, and it changed the whole fucking game. If you have an ice cream stand or a lemonade stand, and you sell lemonade for 50 cents a cup, no one's going to give a shit about your fucking lemonade stand. But if your lemonade stand gets bought out by fucking McDonald's because your lemonade's so goddamn good that the McDonald's Corporation goes, I would like to acquire your lemonade stand so that we can sell your lemonade at McDonald's stores. Guess what? Now all of a sudden, when you're working for McDonald's, you're going to have a bunch of fucking executives and shareholders breathing down your goddamn neck because they want to make sure you make even more money off your lemonade next quarter and the next quarter and the next quarter. And so you're a little 13-year-old girl just trying to sell your fucking lemonade, and now you're crying and begging for your mommy and daddy because John John Kaskamazowski, who owns 75% of the company, is wondering why the fuck lemonade sales are down month over month right now, and it's your ass. It's your feet to the fire. It's your ass that's in the hot seat. What are you going to do about it? And that's how we ended up where we are. It's all relevant. When it all makes sense when you compare it to lemonade. But no, like, I mean, and that's it, right? It's like Xbox wasn't... Dude, the Bethesda deal was such a fucking out of left field baller, whoa, kind of move, right? And it was like, I can't believe they're acquiring a team that big, but it was like just small enough and just big enough that it was like, that's fucking crazy. That's kind of cool. That's a huge win for Xbox. Okay, now Xbox is fucking on fire. This generation's going to be insane. Like, that's kind of where we were. And then they're like, let's do Activision too. It's like, don't do that. You're fucking everything up. And now we're here. And so to pay the price, I mean, core people at Activision have lost their jobs from the 2000 layoffs. Core people at Call of Duty, core leaders of the Activision ship are gone. You lost Pete Hines recently. You lost tons of people at Bethesda. Now you're shutting down 4 teams at Bethesda. I mean, bro, what do you have left? And the only thing that remains consistent is at the helm of the ship, you got Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty. And I'm not saying that these guys wanted this to happen, but I'm saying these guys are responsible for why we're here. So what's the fucking plan? How many more teams do we have to shut down? How many more people do we have to lay off? Or do we finally point the finger at the people in charge and go, all right, you guys tried, you meant well, it's time to get some new guys in place? Because I'd really like to see if there's a leadership team at Xbox who can properly handle these studios, properly figure out what the fuck they're doing with all this shit, and find a way to make it attractive and grow and profitable. And I know it's not an easy task. I know there's been so much damage inflicted on the Xbox brand at this point, that between Game Pass and Xbox One and studio closures and putting your games on PlayStation and all the many facets over the past 10 plus years, it will be a miracle of God to turn the ship around at this point. I truly believe that, man. And I say this as someone who plays on Xbox every fucking week and has played on these consoles every fucking week for like 20 years at this point, man. Like, I love Xbox. I've been addicted to this shit for most of my life at this point. Xbox has been a big part of my life for the majority of my life. And I'm saying this regrettably with a sense of certainty that their days are numbered. I'm sure that their games will live on and that their branding will live on, but like, man, Xbox as we know it is so royally fucked. I don't know what you do now. All right. Let's read a little more. Let's read a little more here. The Verge, I'm trying to say more and The Verge at the same time. The Verge had an update. So the next day, Verge, Tom Warren over there has this update. I skipped out the first half of the article because just reiterative. But here's the new information. So as Tom Warren writes, Microsoft has also had internal debates about whether or not to put new releases of Call of Duty into Game Pass. I understand this is a debate that has been ongoing internally for quite some time, with concerns from some of the revenue that Call of Duty typically generates for Activision Blizzard being undermined by Game Pass. Tom Warren says he's told that Microsoft has also considered increasing the price of Game Pass Ultimate again. These are only considerations, so a final decision could mean we still see a future Call of Duty release appear in most versions of Game Pass. The debate internally reflects the fact that Microsoft, their Xbox strategy has shifted from just delivering the games exclusively into Game Pass to considering bringing more Xbox games to multiple platforms. In yesterday's memo from Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, says that there was a hint of reprioritization for Bethesda teams that we may see elsewhere within Xbox. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high-impact titles, with further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games, before noting that Xbox is doubling down on Bethesda's franchises that are best positioned for success. Did Hi-Fi Rush really not meet the bar? Now, there will be an inevitable question about what other Xbox games aren't best positioned for success. However, Xbox now has a strong lineup planned for 2024, with Hellblade 2 set to debut in just a matter of weeks. Hellblade 2 is another game which Tom Warren says he understands Microsoft has been considering for the PlayStation 5. If that ever happens at this point, it's not clear if that would even be considered a success. Xbox employees are now bracing for what's next, as it seems unlikely that we've seen the last of Microsoft's layoffs or cutbacks. So again, we're not even at the end of the road, probably. There are whispers among Xbox employees that core Xbox game studios are set for cutbacks next month. Last month, Microsoft reportedly said that Xbox hardware revenue, or Microsoft reported that revenue for hardware was down by 31% year over year, an obvious admission that was driven by lower volume of consoles sold. Last year, Microsoft reported that a 30% drop in Xbox hardware revenue, blaming increased console supply from the prior year in 2022. Sony PlayStation 5 sales have also slowed, but not like Microsoft's. While Xbox hardware sales are cause for concern, Xbox has beaten the Xbox Game Pass drum in recent years, saying that the Xbox business isn't how many consoles you sell, but Microsoft's latest earning call shows that Xbox content and services, which includes Game Pass, would have only been up to a single percentage without Activision Blizzard, and overall the gaming revenue would have declined without the giant acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So Microsoft CFO Amy Hood is now expecting Xbox hardware revenues to decline again next quarter. Finally, Microsoft gaming business isn't growing without Activision right now, and now that plays out throughout the year will be key for all Xbox studios. Xbox has a busy fall ahead, with Bethesda targeting a September release date for a Starfield expansion, Activision planning the next COD for October, Avowed and Microsoft Flight Simulator coming out in the year, and then Indiana Jones coming out hopefully in December. So a couple things here. So now the debate apparently internal at Microsoft, and not 100% for sure, but at least the conversation being had is no longer about everything we release goes into Game Pass day one, and now it's which games do we put on a PlayStation. So now it's going to be a difference of you either get your games on Game Pass by playing on Xbox, or you can just buy them on PlayStation, and that's kind of where the value proposition is going to be. And in some ways, I think that's fine, because still, what it says to people is like, buy a fucking Xbox so you can get a Game Pass subscription and not pay $70 a pop for all these games. But by putting all these games on PlayStation, what you're really saying is like, don't buy an Xbox, because on Xbox, you can only get Xbox games. And on PlayStation, you can get all the Xbox games and everything else. And what we've seen over the past few years with Game Pass doing what it does is that despite the success and the interest and the optimism about a gaming streaming service, people are still more than happy to pay $70 a pop for games on PlayStation. Like, games that do well on Game Pass also still sell well on PlayStation. So it just seems like you're not going to convert any Game Pass users for the most part. You're not going to convert anyone over to Xbox hardware by putting these games on PlayStation. You're just going to make more of your money back off of the game itself and can't further cannibalize both your subscription service and your console platform, which is ultimately just going to push higher ups at Microsoft, who are now heavily hands-on with the Xbox brand, to just more and more be like, okay, fuck Game Pass. Okay, fuck hardware. Let's just do third-party publishing. Let's just become a video game publisher. After all, we're a software company, right? So let's just make software. Why do we have to do the hardware? Why do we have to have Game Pass if it's not growing? Why don't we just make Call of Duty, make Halo, make Hellblade, make Indiana Jones, and put them on PlayStation, put them on PC, and make hand over fist money? And really the only reason at this point to not do that is just because the 30 million people that do play on Xbox, or maybe more if you consider the Xbox One people, maybe generously, maybe the 40 million people or so that play on Xbox, and then you get money off of them because when they buy other games on Xbox that aren't just free Game Pass games, you get a 30% rip. So yeah, someone buys Far Cry on their Xbox from the storefront, I guess Microsoft gets a rip of that. So there's money to be made in that more traditional sense, but I mean, you're cannibalizing that right now by hardware going down, not investing in hardware, putting your games on competitor platforms, telling people not to buy games and to just subscribe to Game Pass. So the whole traditional way that Xbox could have worked has been like cannibalized, and now you're cannibalizing the current thing that you've been trying the past few years by just putting all your games on competitor platforms. And now we got Xbox core people starting to worry about their jobs. So you think about Obsidian working on Avowed, the Initiative working on Perfect Dark, which we'll get to in a second, and 343 doing whatever the fuck they're doing, trying to figure out Halo right now, and how those guys are now shaking like, oh my God, we're next for layoffs. Yay, we're going to lose our jobs. First it was Activision, then it was Bethesda, now it's us. And you got freaking the Compulsion Games working on South of Midnight, and you got, we've heard State of Decay 3 is a fucking mess. So who knows what's going on at Undead Labs and how this will affect them. And so it's fucking chaos. It's absolute nonsensical chaos here. And then to top it all off, and this is the last one, I promise, Bloomberg has an update today as well. And thankfully, Bloomberg is a bitch to get onto because you have to have a subscription. But I was able to access the article via mobile, so I just took a bunch of screenshots of it. So excuse me, I wasn't able to copy paste and then edit this down into a more podcast friendly kind of writing. I had to literally read it directly off of screenshots, but Jason Schreier of Bloomberg writes, article titled, Microsoft's Xbox is planning more cuts after studio closing. So this is kind of expanding upon what The Verge was just talking about with some even further information. He says, the sudden closure of... All right, so sorry. So I'm skipping over some of the beginning part. And then it says, this. So Jason Schreier writes, during a town hall with ZeniMax staff on Wednesday morning, so the morning that this podcast is being recorded, Xbox President Matt Booty praised Hi-Fi Rush, but did not specify why the company had shut down the development studio behind it, according to 3 people who were in attendance. Speaking about the closures more broadly, Matt Booty said the company's studio had been spread too thin, he says, like peanut butter on bread, and that leaders across the division felt understaffed. They decided to close these studios to free up resources elsewhere, he said. Booty added that the shutdown of subsidiary Arcane Austin, the longtime developer of games like Prey, was not connected to the performance of its new multiplayer game Redfall, a critical commercial flop. Before it was closed, Arcane had been looking to return to its roots by pitching a new single-player immersive sim game, such as the new entry in the Dishonored series, according to the people familiar with the story or who were in attendance. Jill Braff, head of ZeniMax Studios, said in a town hall that she hoped that reorganization would allow the division, which also helps develop Fallout and Doom, to put more focus on fewer projects. It's hard to support 9 studios across all the world and with a lean central team with an ever-growing plate of things to do, she said. According to the audio of the meeting reviewed by Bloomberg, I think we're about to topple over, she added. Both Tango, GameWorks, Arcane Austin released games last year and were looked at hiring additional staff as they pitched new projects, which Booty and Braff suggested was the main factor behind the closures. Shinji Mikami, Tango's founder and studio head, departed last year. These cuts at Xbox amid a wider contraction in the video games industry due to economic shifts following a period of rapid growth during the pandemic. Recently, Microsoft's gaming division has expanded more than any of its competitors via acquisitions of ZeniMax and Activision. However, the massive Activision Blizzard acquisition has ramped up scrutiny on the Xbox division for leaders at Microsoft, according to people familiar. In recent years, Xbox became deeply invested in Game Pass, a subscription service that offers unlimited games, blah, 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 blah. Free, we all know what that is. To fill the service with new enticements, Xbox acquired dozens of studios, including outfits for making smaller games, such as San Francisco-based Double Fine. While most game publishers are looking to take big swings with games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, Xbox promises to support less sprawling creative titles like Hi-Fi Rush with smaller budgets and lower sales expectations. It didn't matter if a game sold tens of millions of copies as long as it helped bolster the Game Pass library. But Game Pass has not seen a massive growth in Xbox boss Phil Spencer may have been hoping for. Matt Piscatella, executive director and analyst for Circana, said that monthly non-mobile video game subscription spending in the U.S. has been flat to low single-digit growth since the middle of 2021. He said, quote, "In our data, Game Pass spending really had its big growth period in late 2019 through 2021, and has since settled," Piscatella said. Purchasing games and add-on content as well as free-to-play models are still vastly preferred method of getting video games to the U.S. consumers, at least for now. While there's no indication that Xbox plans to ditch Game Pass as a model, there are hints of its big bets having not paid off. During the most recent quarter sales, Xbox content and services were up 62%, but as Nico Partners analyst Daniel Amon pointed out, the growth of was entirely due to the acquisition of Activision. On social media, it was noted that without the sales of the deal, Xbox gaming revenue would have been down approximately 5% year over year, with no software and services growth or sharp hardware revenue decline. With console revenue down, the company recently began releasing some of its games on competitor platforms. In March, of course, as we all know, Phil Spencer said, "The thing that has me the most concerned for the industry is the lack of growth." All right. So here's the thing, and I think this is the core of it, because obviously the layoffs are sad, and the people this sucks for the most are the people affected by the layoffs, the people who lost their jobs, the teams that are now dissolved, the history that is now lost. You know, we have word that Arcane Austin was working on an update that was supposed to be released really soon for Redfall that would allow the game to be played offline. That's now canceled. That would have been fucking great, because now the game's going to be supported for a few years, and then they're going to shut off the servers one day, and then Redfall will just be lost to time. It'll be this game you cannot play anymore because they never allowed Arcane Austin to finish their last update and get the game playable offline. So, like, this is the kind of shit where it's like, it's so abrupt and it's so harsh, and it's that weird Microsoft Phil Spencer double talk where it's like, you guys are so concerned with being the arbiters of games preservation, yet you're about to fucking sacrifice a game that will now no longer be able to be preserved with Redfall, and that game is just lost to time. And I guess fuck me, fuck us, fuck everyone. And these people have now lost their jobs and all these like flippant layoffs because the unsustainable growth, the betting on Game Pass that hasn't paid off, and now the people who are tasked with just making good games to feed the service are suffering as a result of it. Again, Arcade and Austin shouldn't have suffered the fate they suffered because of the way Redfall performed. And I truly believe Xbox didn't pick them or shut them down due to the performance of Redfall. I truly do believe that they believe in that team and that they would bet on them again, like Phil Spencer said. The problem is that's optically the way that's going to go down in history. And as for the other teams, again, it's what my tweet was saying. It's what I was saying just a minute ago about, like, you have all these teams that are known for making indie games, AA games, lower budget, borderline not even AAA games. And now you're going to scare the shit out of them by saying, hey, we shut down the guys that made Hi-Fi Rush. Remember that game that we were touting last year and we were bragging about left and right because all the critical acclaim it was getting and how much people liked it and how we said it was a success by our metrics and that we were satisfied with the way it debuted and everything. Well, now you guys can all live in fear because who knows if South of Midnight or State of Decay 3 or Avowed or Hellblade 2 or any of these games are going to do well enough. Because the thing is, a game like Hellblade 2 could be played by 10 million people on Game Pass and then maybe it sells 2 million copies. That would be great. 2 million copies for a platform that has like a 30 million install base and most of those players are playing on Game Pass. That would be incredible. And then 8 to 10 million people playing the game on Game Pass. I mean, that's highly optimistic, but that's incredible. I mean, that's a huge success, right? That's a great way to feed Game Pass, right? But that is a blip on the radar compared to what Call of Duty is going to do this fall when Call of Duty Black Ops 5 or Gulf War, whatever the fuck it's called, comes out. Because that game's going to come out and it's going to sell 20 million copies and it's going to have 1,000,000,007 players and Warzone's going to have a new fucking Mercedes-Benz crossover Godzilla versus King Kong event. And then fucking the cast of Ghostbusters after life is going to come out and be like, oh, for season 7 of fucking Call of Duty, we're going to have a real life George Bush fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And it's going to be like that kind of shit. And then it's going to make a ton of money and it's going to be like, yeah, Hellblade 2 got a 9 out of 10 from IGN. Yeah, Hellblade 2 was enjoyed by 8 million Game Pass subscribers. Yeah, Hellblade 2 still sold respectfully despite being accessible through Game Pass. All of those things, right? Hypothetically, let's say all that happens. It doesn't mean dick compared to 20 million units sold. And now everyone's falling over themselves because they want to buy the new Tony Hawk crossover in Call of Duty Season 3. And when you compare these apples to oranges, and your corporation Microsoft only cares about the fucking 20 million Call of Duty thing and doesn't care about the chump change from something like Hellblade 2, now you have this imbalance where the higher-ups and the suits only understand the big bucks. They want the Fortnite kind of money. They don't give a shit about the art house indie money because that's what a game like Avowed is compared to Call of Duty. That's what a game like Hellblade is compared to Fortnite. They want the MCU money. They don't want the A24 money. And that's the thing we're up against. But it runs contradictory to how Game Pass should operate because a service like Game Pass needs the highs and the lows. It needs Stranger Things with Love is Blind. It needs like the lowbrow trash content you leave on in the background while you're making dinner, along with the I've been waiting for this next season of this show for 3 years. I'm biting my nails, like waiting in anticipation for what happens next. You need all of that in the fucking service to make the cake. It's all part of the ingredients. No one bites into a cake and goes, baking soda, but you need it to make the fucking cake. It's part of the necessary ingredient list. And so that's the problem. You can't have Hi-Fi Rush. You can't have State of Decay 3. You can't have Hellblade 2. Why the fuck subscribe to Game Pass? For what? Call of Duty? That's a dumb value proposition. Why would I subscribe to Game Pass just for Call of Duty, just for Starfield, just for Halo? Because Call of Duty is a game I'm going to put 200 hours into. Halo is a game I'm going to put 200 hours into. Starfield's a game I'm going to put 200 hours into. So why would I pay $18 a month every month to play a couple of games I'm going to pump hundreds of hours into when I could just not subscribe to Game Pass altogether and just play Warzone for free and then buy my Nicki Minaj jerk-off skins on the side and then buy Halo for $70 and buy Starfield for $70 and go, I feel good about buying those games for $70 because I played them for like 200 hours. And they were big, AAA, eventful games. And now you don't have any of the little smaller stuff to justify, like I wouldn't be a Game Pass subscriber if the last game I got on Game Pass was Starfield, and then before that was Halo Infinite. That's 2 games over the course of 3 years. That's bad value. But I'm a Game Pass subscriber because in between Halo Infinite and Starfield, I got Nobody Saves the World. I got Dead Island 2. I got Diablo 4. I got Jasant and all these fucking games. And what's the one I just played a few months ago about the Italian developed game where you're on the fucking ship, the knockoff BioShock one about the something of the sun. Like all these games, that's like some of them were great, some of them were okay. I played that fucking mecha cat game where you're in the cat suit and it's the isometric gun, like twin stick shooter game. I play all these games and some of them I don't even remember the names to, but guess what? I always have a fucking blast because Game Pass has tons of great games. But I just don't understand how this service fucking makes sense if all you care about is wringing Call of Duty dry for every penny you can get out of it. And so what do we do here? Now we're at an impasse. If I'm Double Fine, if I'm Obsidian, I'm shaking in my boots now. I'm worried about which guys I work with that are going to be here tomorrow because I know I can make a great game, but I don't think I can make Call of Duty money. And these unrealistic expectations that these stupid fucks, whether it's Bobby Kotick or the higher ups at Microsoft or goddamn investors, fuck investors, god fucking damn you fuck investors. All these people that don't care about how it's made, they just care about the return on investment. These absolute fucking dum-dums. Now because they're in charge and they have their eyes set on Xbox, it's just about wringing the fucking rag dry for every drop of water. It's just about the Call of Duty money, the Fortnite money, and nothing else matters. And it's unsustainable and it's unrealistic. And it makes no fucking sense whatsoever. I don't know, man. It's worrisome. And so I guess to try and wrap it all up after all this long-winded nonsense, do I think the core executive team at Xbox meant well? Yeah, man. But they got everything so fucked up by getting involved with this Activision shit. And that paired with the fact that this was already a rough year. Like, if Microsoft didn't acquire Activision, keep in mind, this was already a tough year. There were going to be layoffs regardless. Everyone has layoffs. Sony already had layoffs. Take-Two had layoffs. And if you got guys like Take-Two and Sony and all them having layoffs, Xbox would have had layoffs. And a lot of those layoffs Xbox had with Activision earlier in the year, they even said themselves, these were layoffs Activision was about to have if we didn't do them. So that doesn't excuse them for laying people off, but it does tell you that if Activision hadn't got acquired by Microsoft, they would have had layoffs too. Everyone would have had layoffs. But if Microsoft didn't buy Activision, I don't know that they would have had to close 4 Bethesda studios. And I don't know that they would have started putting all their games on PlayStation. And I don't know that we would start to doubt the immediate future of Game Pass and its viability. Game Pass is not performing how it should. And Xbox is making some really stupid decisions right now. But I think a lot of that stupidity is being heightened and accelerated because of everything surrounding Activision Blizzard. And if they weren't in the picture, yeah, that earnings report would have been fucking brutal with the losses and the pathetic amount of growth they experienced. But investors wouldn't have been staring at Xbox so heavily because it's a small part of the business. And Phil Spencer, who had a lot more free reign before Activision was in the picture, could have just said, listen, we've got a killer lineup this year. Just watch what we do this year with all these games, and as they hit, I promise you, we're going to have a fucking killer lineup. It's going to draw a lot of hype to our platform. It's going to be a big year for us. But honestly, I'm excited for Hellblade and Avowed and Indiana Jones because I want to play these games. I think they'll be good games. But the potential for these games to drive Game Pass subscribers and sell Xbox hardware, that's dead at this point. Because Xbox fans hate you. PlayStation fans know your games are coming to their platform anyway. You guys can't stay out of the news for more than 5 fucking seconds. And it's always for something bad. It doesn't fucking matter. Indiana Jones will just come to PlayStation. I'm certain. Will it come to PlayStation day one? Probably not. Will it come to PlayStation within a year or two? Yeah, it will. In Avowed, spoiler alert, because you just know how this shit works, Avowed's going to be a pretty excellent, 8 out of 10 quality game. It's going to be like Outer Worlds, where it's going to get a decent amount of attention from fans of the genre. It's not going to light the world on fire like Skyrim or Baldur's Gate did. It's going to do decently, and people are just going to move right on to the next game. It's not going to be this thing that lights the world on fire. And then they'll still probably put it on PlayStation. And then Hellblade 2, it's going to be more of a critical kind of darling than it's going to be a giant sales success. So I'm not saying it won't make money. I'm not saying it won't be a popular game played by a decent amount of people, but it's just not going to do anything that impressive. And so at this point, it's like, yeah, what's the fucking point, man? Just throw it all on PlayStation. Fuck Game Pass. Enjoy it while you still got it. It's just all a giant mess. And if every screen is an Xbox, man, you can't fuck up Game Pass. But I guess we're fucking up Game Pass now too. So I don't know. I don't know how you right the ship. Again, like as always, my takeaway is still like, I still love playing on this platform, man. I still love these consoles, these controllers. I still love these games. I know I'm going to still be eating good on Xbox this year. I'm going to be playing Hellblade 2 and Avowed and Indie, and I'm going to enjoy these games, but it's going to feel weird because it's not going to just be like, oh, great new games for me to enjoy on my platform of choice. It's going to be great new games for me to enjoy, but in the back of my head, at what cost? And all the people that lost their jobs to get here, and all the people that are still probably going to enjoy their game. I can't wait to roll credits on Indiana Jones and see the 2,400 developer names that roll across the screen and wonder to myself, I wonder how many of these guys are going to be laid off in the next like 2 months now that this game is done. Because you know that's what's going to happen. Machine Games is just going to have layoffs once Indie's done. Oh, okay, the game's done. Okay, now we're kind of in between projects. Time to lay people off. It's like what the fuck, man? What is the incentive for anyone to even work in this industry? If you are passionate about video games, you should absolutely YouTube about them, podcast about them, create your own indie games and self-publish. For the love of God, don't get involved with traditional game development. What's the fucking incentive? You're just going to get kicked to the curb for doing what you love, like for trying to put art out into the world. You're just going to get shit on. Like it's not even worth it, man. Anyway, that's enough of that. So I wish I could say there's a silver lining, but unlike the case with like the Xbox starting to put games on PlayStation thing, I can't just be like, well, you know, with that I could be like, listen, man, at the end of the day, I'll still play Xbox as long as I have the choice. More people getting to access these games is a good thing for players, and I'm sure the developers are happy that their games get to be enjoyed by more people. So there's at least some kind of silver lining, even if it wasn't like necessarily the decision we all wanted. There's at least a silver lining. With this, there's no fucking silver lining. Now we're just waiting for the next round of layoffs. They're talking about layoffs at Xbox Game Studios teams next month. The same month that they're going to have their giant summer blowout. Ugh, Gear 6. Okay, cool. Gear 6 and half the coalition is fired. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I can't get hyped about your new games, you know? Because back when I was playing Uno on the Xbox 360 with my buddies, and we were messaging guys on Xbox Live, pretending to be cute girls to laugh about how pathetic they are when they tell us that they love us, I didn't know who Phil Spencer was. We didn't know the inner workings behind the scenes. Halo 3 wasn't in utter turmoil, and half the team at Bungie wasn't getting fucking slaughtered to death. It was all just fucking kosher, and we played zombies on Call of Duty for the first time in 2008, and we fell in love, and everything was great. And Guitar Hero happened, and then it happened too many times, and that's a different story, but then Mass Effect happened. It was good times. Now it's like, oh, cool, I get to play my Indiana Jones video game. And shortly after I roll credits, everyone will be fired. I can't wait. I don't know, man. It's fucking heartbreaking, man. So, but that's video games for you, I guess. Best thing for Xbox at this point would be I'm not gonna make that joke. But here's the last thing I will say though. I did wonder this. I was just thinking like to myself when I was in the bathroom today. I was like, so what happens inevitably when Xbox pulls out of when Microsoft pulls out of Xbox or puts the axe on Xbox because it's just not working out and it's not worth it for them anymore. I'm like, you know what happens at that point? Everything gets sold off in chunks. Most of the teams get dissolved and shut down. Activision gets sold to Tencent. That's it. That's what happens. Call of Duty becomes a Tencent game. I'm calling it now. 2028. Call of Duty is a fucking mobile Tencent game for PC and iPhone. I don't know. Anyway, there is one more thing not about this story. It's about something else. But there is one more technically main article to talk about today, and I don't even know if I can talk about it for too long because I'm just losing my fucking voice and head at this point. But as if there wasn't enough disappointing news, reportedly, Xbox's upcoming Perfect Dark reboot is facing some challenges. It's had a very rough development cycle. So, speaking on the Giant Bomb podcast, journalist Jeff Grubb spoke about the game in the wake of the closures of several Xbox studios, and he said, the fallout from this is, I've been hearing more and more about the Perfect Dark is in a rough shape. It sounds like it's in a very rough state. it doesn't sound like it's really coming together in any way. Video game VG 24/7 journalist Alex Donaldson echoed this, describing it as a team really trying hard to push a boulder up a steep hill. Video game historian Liam Robertson said, "From what little I've heard about the development of the new Perfect Dark game, it does sound like a future video in the making, just big, protracted mess." In June of 2023, IGN reported that the reboot was in the earliest stages of development and was likely still to be 2 or 3 years away. While the project was announced in 2020, nothing has been shown since the following years. Reportedly, setbacks have stalled development. These allegedly include a fraught co-development partnership with Certain Affinity, which worked on the game between 2019 and 2021 at the height attrition at the initiative. VGC reported in March of 2022 that the Xbox studio had seen a fast and furious wave of senior departures over the previous year. So basically your annual update on Perfect Dark Reboot is it's still a fucking mess. Honestly, I would be less disappointed if the news this week was Microsoft is pulling the plug on Perfect Dark Reboot and they're shutting down the initiative. Because at least if they did that, it's like, okay, well, it's a team that we knew was in turmoil. It's a game that never came out. It's a team that never produced a game. There's no history or pedigree lost. And maybe they can try and fold some of those developers and those talent into other teams or something. That one makes sense. Although, honestly, at this point, we just read that we're still waiting for some Xbox Game Studios bad news. So maybe that's what we find out next month, is that they shut down the initiative and cancel Perfect Dark Reboot. Maybe that's what fucking happens. One thing is clear, Matt Booty can't run a fucking game studio to save his life, because that much is just so blatantly obvious at this point. So wouldn't be surprised if that happens in addition to all this other shit. But man, it's just so disheartening. And I guess the thing I would like to say, just to try and have a progressive conversation and talk, not just be like, here's all the reality of what's going on and it's sad. It's let's try to talk. Just one thing I'd like to say, in an effort to look forward to the future and think what is the next step? Because obviously it can't stay like this forever. This isn't sustainable. The industry as a whole, game budgets are so bloated, game development time is so out of whack, team sizes are way too fucking big. This is just a nightmare mess. And so looking forward to the future, I really hope the push is to try and cut back on the scope and the fidelity of games, to try and get games to be less ambitious in terms of the size of the game, to be less ambitious in terms of it's so fucking realistic, you'll think you're really in there, that kind of shit, and to just try and get back as much as we can to a state of game development that is more reflective of what we had in the Xbox 360 era. Really unique games, really compelling games, groundbreaking games even. But it doesn't have to fucking look photorealistic. And the map doesn't need to be that fucking big. And we don't need to integrate all the mechanics and all the fucking physics features and engines from all the other games. And we don't need to make it all have the this feature and the that feature and the online and the seasonal content. We got to get back to a place where it's okay for a game to be like Dead Space was in 2008, or for a game to be like Left 4 Dead was, or to be like a game, even for big games to be less daunting, like a game like Oblivion, rather than a game like Starfield, in terms of endless planets to explore. It's okay, how about 10 really good planets instead of endless planets to explore, let's just try and scale this shit back, because we can't keep doing this 6 to 8 year development cycle shit. It is so silly. Any game that enters production today won't even be out this console generation. Any game that went into production a year ago wouldn't have even been able to come out this console generation. So I hope above all that is the focus right now in the games industry, is not how can we get our slice of the Fortnite pie? Who else do you think we can get the Dixie Chicks in the next season of Fortnite by chance? Instead of focusing on that, I really hope there are more level-headed people at some of these companies who are laser focused on saying game development used to not be this risky and cumbersome. How can we get back to where we were? How can we hold the I don't know, like the problem is it's like I really struggled with like understanding why game development has to be this rough. I don't know, like, and with engine tools and game development more accessible and easy than ever before, like, why can't we focus on just trying to make more curated, specific, smaller scale games instead of this? What the fuck is this Perfect Dark game that it is such a nightmare to produce? And at what point does Matt Booty take responsibility for the fact that this team cannot figure out how to work together and make this thing come together and become a video game? It's mind-blowing, man. All right, that's it for all the big news this week. Let's round out with some smaller stories here, important enough news to make the podcast, but not important enough to warrant their own discussion. Probably the only good news you're going to hear this week, really, and, at least if you're anything like me, this is actually really good news. Ubisoft has finally confirmed the release date for X-Defiant, their long-delayed free-to-play FPS game. So on May 21st, this game will go live on Xbox and PC. That is really good news. Again, like, why did that game take so fucking long to make, man? They used to make a Call of Duty game in like 18 months. Why, man? You used to get like campaign, zombies, and multiplayer in like 18 months. And now it's like, I need you to just make a Call of Duty knockoff multiplayer only game. No campaign, no cinematics, no third rail mode, just the fucking multiplayer. And this Ubisoft team is like, yeah, I got you. Need 7 years. Why? What is going on? Who's in charge of this shit? Anyway, next up, THQ Nordic will host their 4th annual digital showcase this summer, August 2nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Will be viewable on YouTube and Twitch. THQ Nordic will serve as news for Gothic 1 Remake, Titan Quest 2, and much more. We'll keep the secrets to ourselves for now, the publisher said. Next up, and lastly, EA CEO Andrew Wilson said that the future Battlefield experiences are being developed by the biggest team in the franchise history. Here's everything that's wrong with video games right here. Mr. Andrew fucking Wilson, the last remnant of Bobby Kotick. I'm just kidding. He says the company announced last month that the Dead Space remake and Star Wars Squadron studio Motive was joining the Battlefield. Again, it's the same fucking thing. Same thing Activision was doing to Vicarious Visions. Same thing Microsoft's right now doing. And then and here we go with EA. It's again, EA Motive, good job with that Star Wars Squadrons game. Good job with that Dead Space remake. Those games are small fries compared to Battlefield, because Battlefield is sells many millions of copies and has seasonal content and people buy skins. We'd really like to make a Battlefield game big enough that maybe we would really like to get Kent Clark in the game. I don't know, is that Superman? But yeah, so they're bragging about that. They talking about how between all the teams, DICE, Criterion, Ripple Effect, that they're making the biggest connected multiplayer experience and single player, and they're just bragging about it. So awesome. Good to know Battlefield is no different from all the other games that are just having bloated team sizes, bloated developments, way too long development histories. Like, Battlefield games used to come out like every 2 years. It's been almost 3 years since the last Battlefield game, and you have more people than ever working on it. If we don't see that game this year, I'm going to start wondering why the fuck are you making such a large-scale Battlefield game when you could just make a Battlefield game. You can be innovative and groundbreaking and unique without just making the game bigger. I just want to be clear about that. I'm not asking for games to not be innovative and groundbreaking, Just putting it out there. Look at indie games. Indie developers make groundbreaking games all the time that have maps that are smaller than my urethra. All right, guys, let's round out the podcast with some comments. Obviously, lots of people wrote in about this and things like that, so I'm just going to read through some of these comments at the top first. We got maybe 7 or 8 comments to go through here. Cronky wrote in and says, Xbox just announced it's shutting down Arcane and Tango. Not going to lie, I really hate market consolidation. This move makes me so mad. I get that Redfall was poorly received, but the team wanted Xbox to cancel it. And Tango was putting out bangers like Evil Within 2 and Hi-Fi Rush. God, I hate these people. And then Sam Frito writes in and says, can I save up my Xbox reward points to save a developer from getting cut? I love that. I love that comment so fucking much. Yeah, I got 12,000 Microsoft points. How many people's jobs can I save with that instead of redeeming it for Xbox gift cards? All right, getting back to Cronky's comment real quick. And this is the craziest thing is, like, to address Cronky's comment, going back to Jason Schreier's article from today, at that town hall, they basically said, just to be clear, we're not shutting you down because of the performance of Hi-Fi Rush. We're not shutting you down because of the performance of Redfall. We're shutting you down because right now everything is spread too thin, and we need our leadership focused on the teams that are going to make games that rack in the big bucks. And that's really what it came down to. They're saying, Hi-Fi Rush is great. You guys made a great game. Arcane, we know you guys will make another great game if we give you the opportunity. The problem is you guys are going to make games that'll sell a couple million units and get a couple of game industry awards and stuff at an event, and that's not good enough. We just want. I mean, it's again, we don't have to keep saying it. It's. They're unashamed about it. We just want that fucking Warzone money. Everything else is stupid compared to this. So not only get ready for less diversity of games and Game Pass and all that, but just get ready for a less interesting output from Xbox. They're just basically saying like, hey, Bethesda Game Studios games sell big, Halo sells big, Gears sells big, Call of Duty sells big. We'll just invest in that and literally nothing else. Fuck everything else. So, but yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. they just want to make money off the big cash cows, and they don't want. It's like why doesn't a car dealership sell candy bars and soda pop, at the checkout counter like Walmart does? Because that's just not that's not the way they're set up as a market. Walmart's job is to sell you on tons and tons of items that are at low prices where they can make a penny off of each item so that they can make a ton of money off selling you a lot of items for dirt cheap. But the Mercedes dealership is just trying to sell you a really expensive, really overpriced car that's going to shit out on you after 30,000 miles. And so the difference is Xbox isn't trying to sell you a really awesome game that they'll just make a tiny, tiny bit of money off of. They just want you to buy the fucking Nicki Minaj skin on Call of Duty. Plain and simple. $20. It took some guy 4 hours to make that goddamn skin in some Blender program or whatever. And they put it on the storefront and made a gajillion dollars off of it because a bunch of kids were like, ooh, I would really like to play as Amber Heard in the latest update for Call of Duty. She makes so much sense next to Mason and Woods from the popular Black Ops franchise. Anyway, HD Hobbs writes in and says, 1,900 employees laid off earlier in the year. Studios being closed down and even more job layoffs to be announced. Question about Xbox going third party and the rough game development rumors. This is the most uneasy I felt about Xbox as a brand since the launch of the Xbox One. The situation sucks on so many levels. Nintendo hardware rumored to be pushed back. Sony not releasing a single first party game yet this year. Xbox should be poised to own this year instead we get this shit. HD Hobbs, I want to apologize because this comment should have absolutely been read earlier when I was making that point because this so aptly puts into words what I was failing and trying to say earlier. So thank you for writing in. Thank you for this really succinct way of putting it. But yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a great way of kind of highlighting what I was saying. Like, I'm going to play Avowed. I'm going to play Indiana Jones. I'm going to play Hellblade 2. And I'm sure these games are going to be pretty good. But in the back of my head, it's just going to be like, all right, who's losing their job after this? All right, what's next after this? How do we consolidate? All right, which one of these games is not going to do well enough to justify the existence of this team afterwards? And it just sucks so bad because it's like, it's such an easy year for Xbox to kill it. Like, looking at 2024 through the lens of 2023, I mean, this year was looking so good. Remember at the end of last year, we were like, all these leaks about new Xbox hardware for next year, all like the Activision shit will be done. Our expectations for this year in Xbox was going to be like, Avowed, maybe Fable, for sure Hellblade, Call of Duty will be in Game Pass, a new Call of Duty will come out, make shit tons of money. We'll get that new Xbox Series X that doesn't have a disc drive. We'll get that new Xbox controller that has the same haptics that the PS5 controller has. Oh man, it's going to be such a great year for Xbox. I can't wait. Maybe they'll announce Gears 6. That was kind of like how it looked going into the year. It was fucking awesome. And it could have been, that's the craziest part, man, is it really could have been that. You're a $3 trillion company. Why did you not just ride this wave of positivity this year? This could have been your year. You know what Sony has coming out this year? Nothing. A couple of other companies put games on their platform, like Stellar Blade and Final Fantasy VII Part 2. And they got a couple games from that. They're already out. They've got nothing coming out this year. Sony's well is completely dry. Nintendo's still delaying the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement or whatever the fuck it is. Nintendo's got nothing going on. Xbox, this is your year to shine. It's like, I swear to God, it's like Xbox has been benched for so long, and then the star quarterback breaks his fucking leg, and coach looks at Xbox and goes, "You're in, guy." And he goes, "I know exactly what to do. I won't let you down." And then he fucking runs out on the field and starts ripping his clothes off and lights himself on fire. That's pretty much what this is like. This is a layup. 2024 is a layup for you, Xbox. All you had to do was just continue being the richest fucking company and let these awesome games hit the market and speak for themselves. Instead, they're like, let's just get in our own way time and time again. Before any of our stellar games this year can even hit the market, we give up. We're putting our games on PlayStation. Fuck it. We can't do this anymore. Before we can get a single one of these games out, we're closing everything down. Before you can even get to your big summer reveal and talk about all the new games you're going to announce for next year, fuck it. We're just going to shut down 4 studios, and then rumors are going to persist about even further layoffs. Come on, man. And to think there was a part of me that actually hoped and thought and was naive enough to believe that maybe we'd see Perfect Dark next month at the showcase. Now my expectation is that team's just going to get shut down. It's so ridiculous. And it's like, you shut down a team. There's a hypocrisy in it too, where it's like, Tango Gameworks, say what you will about the commercial success of their games, but Evil Within 1 came out in 2014. Evil Within 2 was 2017. And then Ghostwire Tokyo was 2020 on PlayStation, then 2021 on Xbox. Or it was 2021 on PlayStation, 2022 on Xbox. And then Hi-Fi Rush was 2023. So, dude, Tango Gameworks, they put out a new game like every 3 years. Roughly every fucking 3 years, this team put out a game. Even with the pandemic and everything, nothing stopped them. They were consistently putting out games. They were one of the few teams that was bucking the 7 to 47 year timeline for video game development. And you shut them down. Meanwhile, the initiative's been established since 2018, and they haven't done a goddamn thing. The only thing we've gotten out of them is a CG trailer. 343 has been in charge of Halo since roughly 2007 to some extent, in a more full force kind of way, since like 2009, 2010. And they just dropped the ball with Halo so fucking hard in 2021 after dropping the ball with Halo in 2015, and have now had to reorganize. And they had layoffs, don't get me wrong, but they've now had to reorganize, and we don't even know what the fuck the future of Halo is. And the story of Halo is completely botched at this point. It doesn't even matter anymore. And we don't even know what the future of that series is. But 343 is still alive, and the initiative's still alive, but Tango Gameworks isn't. I guess Xbox just likes not having studios that can predictably put out games at a good clip to support Game Pass. They'd rather just have Game Pass bleed for 7 years with no fucking content, in hopes that maybe 343 doesn't fuck it up next time, in hopes that maybe one day the initiative can get a game out the door, in hopes that maybe one day Matt Booty will be able to properly manage these teams so that they're formed and operating in a way to where they can actually make these games in less than 47 decades. Maybe. But yeah, just go ahead and shut down your only Japanese studio that also happens to be one of your only teams that can make really awesome games within a really reasonable time frame. That is sound logic, Xbox. You're so not terrible at this. Trust me. I'm not winking really hard at you. You don't suck at this. Awesome. All right. Let's try to talk about some other thing. Actually, no, one more. No, wait, we already read that one. We can delete that one. All right. Let's go talk about some topics from last week now. Following up on this conversation about optimization, 60 FPS, and the expectation for how a game should run on home console hardware, Eli De Silva writes in and says, just wanted to drop a comment about the recent Starfield update that was announced for May. UI and quality of life changes, indoor customization for ships, planetary vehicles, etc. Mass Effect 1 lover here, let's go. And last but not least, finally 60 FPS boost on Series X. Well, isn't it just interesting, huh? Things everybody wanted or expected at launch. Only took them 12 months to finally optimize the game for the platform it was designed for. So the whole who locked out our game at 30 FPS for consistency, it was design/artistic decision, you won't ever notice it spiel, was just another example of Todd, sweet little eyes, Howard, at it again. It makes you wonder about every other game releasing with locked frame rate. It really is an artistic decision, or game studios are just can't get the game to be optimized on time for the release. It seems to be an ongoing assumption. Obviously, in game dev, you have to make these decisions incredibly early on to prioritize what aspect of the game and when. And where. I think you have said it before, studios prioritizing stunning graphics over optimization. Dragon's Dogma 2, graphics over optimization. Dragon's Dogma and Hellblade 2, for example. But I'm incredibly happy that the update, as it proves that the Xbox can handle 60 FPS on newer titles, so the excuse of not having it on release, it becomes less and less credible. It gives me hope that 40 to 60 FPS mode for Hellblade 2 in a couple months later on down the hill, which is better than not having that option at all. Sorry for a long-winded comment. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I think the bigger concern I have with this, it's just the lack of clear communication and transparency. Like, I know you can't be transparent because people don't like the truth and people don't like being told what they need to hear. I mean, otherwise maybe people would hold their governments accountable for the things they actually do if we were comfortable with truth in this world. But I think it comes down to, like, wouldn't it be great if Todd Howard could have been like, last summer, this is what Todd Howard said. Listen, can we get this game running on Series X at 60 FPS? Probably. I'm pretty confident we can do it. The problem is this game has been in development for so long and we've missed so many launch windows because it's a very complex and complicated game. And it would be really time consuming for us to have this game be ready to go, with the exception that it doesn't run at 60 FPS. So we think because we have the analytics and the data to prove that the majority of consumers don't really care about 30 versus 60 FPS, that it would probably just be best to release the game now, and then we'll continue to work on 60 FPS, and hopefully that's a feature we can implement in the future. I know it's not ideal. We all would have liked for this to have been there day one, but at this point in time, between the amount of time we spent on the game, the expectations for when a game has to come out, this is like literally like a PR comment. It's just, you have to juggle this balance of when you have to get the product out on the store shelf and when the product has to start making money for you. And the fact of the matter is, we're up against the clock. We're out of time. Do we want to go back and add this game and make it even better than before? Of course, and we hope to do more of that. But we're confident that the game is at a state right now where it's content complete, it tells an amazing story, it's polished, it's bug-free, and that the majority of people who experience this game are going to love it for what it is and not even care about / notice the difference between 30 and 60 FPS, especially considering this is a more slow-paced shooter and not necessarily a twitchy game like Call of Duty. If they had said something to that effect, I feel like people like us, like people like nerds who give a shit about this stuff, could have been like, that sucks, but I totally understand it, and I really respect the transparency and honesty. I feel like that's how we could have been. But because of the way the world actually works, where if you tell someone the truth and it's mildly inconvenient or not exactly what they really wish deep down that they were hearing, we just had to deal with the fact that people would be like, then just delay the game. Fuck you. You're stupid. You're stealing money. You're just cheap. You're just obsessed with money. All you care about is money. It's like, all right, well, fuck it. Todd Howard. Here's a meme of Todd Howard sucking my dad's cock. Like, it's just like, that's what we would get. So it's like, unfortunately, we can't have honest and open conversations because people can't be trusted with honest and open information. But at the same time, you know, it's got to start somewhere. So it would be nice if these kinds of people could. But at the end of the day, they have a product to sell and they don't want to make it seem like less of what it could be in any way, shape, or form. They just want to make it seem like they're selling you the best thing possible, and they want excuses for all of its shortcomings. So I get the frustration. I can understand the setbacks with money and time and all these things. I just wish there's more transparency and honesty. That's really all it would, at least for someone like me, that's really all it would take to make that problem not so much a problem. And that way, then people could decide, like, maybe I'll just wait a while and play the game later once it's gotten some updates in. But they want your money today, not tomorrow. Cronky says, I'm going to jump the ship. Oh, nope, that's not what he said. Different comment. I'm going to jump back into Starfield this month when the 60 FPS update drops. I'm really excited. I put 80 hours into it when it first launched, and I've been itching to play more for a few months now, but I was resisting because I knew it would come eventually. Now, I'm going to say, maybe Cronky just never gave a shit about the 30 versus 60 FPS thing. But Eli Da Silva, I got to go back to you a little bit and say, this is why they don't have to be man of their words, and this is why they can just do whatever they want, because because there can be this debate about 30 versus 60 FPS, and they can tell us it's just not possible. And then the game comes out, we enjoy it anyway, we forgive it, and we forget about the problem in the first place. We forget about the dilemma and the conversation that was being had in the first place. And then a year later, when they give us 60 FPS, people like me, people like Cronky will just go, "Oh, cool, Starfield's 60 FPS now? That's awesome. I'm going to jump back in and play more." And they're like, perfect. Fucking perfect. Like, they got us. We're eating out of the palm of their hands. Because I'm right there with Cronky. I'm the same way. I'm just like, cool, I'll play it again. All right, Sam Frito writes in and says, just to be clear, PS is Phil Spencer's initials. He has been toying with us the entire time. PlayStation fanboy. Phil Spencer, you better get your name changed and head up the Xbox company. No more selling Xbox juice to Sony and Nintendo. Legal name change. Xerxes Benjamin? I don't know you. You make up the rest, Jesse. I'm tired. And yes, Wolverine X-Men Origins did not have a parry mechanic. Enemies tried to parry him and usually lost tons of blood. Blood that allowed Wolverine to heal. What would he need a parry for? Yes, amen. God bless that game. And then you wrote this little excerpt, which I love. This made me laugh out loud literally like twice today, reading this comment. You said, "Oh, and the on this week in Xbox history is great. Give Cronky a raise during his next evaluation. Use them Patreon bucks, Necker Chief sales, swear jar monies for his corner of the office at Xbox On." That fucking got me. I love it. Sam Frito, I hope you have a great week. You are a handsome man. And then our last comment comes from, it's lengthy fucking comment, comes from Mr. Mike Clark, who writes in, and I don't even remember what this says. Let's just go in together. "It seems Sony has secured a deal for Wolverine as an IP, but I wish they would release the Xbox 360 game. It was so fun. Yes, another Souls game can fuck right off. I was tempted to purchase a PS5 just for Stellar Blade. However, I decided against it as I completed Bayonetta's 2 and 3 on Switch, which I adored, and acquired Vanquish for my Xbox One X. I really wish there were more games like this." I'm not gonna lie, I think Stellar Blade looks awesome, and for very similar reasons. It reminds me of games like Bayonetta and Vanquish. So yeah, it looks like a great game. If that game comes to, when that game comes to PC, PlayStation games come to PC, I'll play it there. But I am interested in that game. Mention Mass Effect again, and I'll send you a copy along with a request for your Xbox membership card. You must experience the unparalleled sci-fi storytelling epic. Want channel growth? Dive into BioWare games like KOTOR, and you'll soon overlook Midfield. Oh, okay. I played the first few hours of Mass Effect 1 a few years ago, and I really liked it. I just need to carve out the time and dig into it. But I'll need to restart, of course. You said, "The discussion around Halo and the perceived lack of story is important due to the false narrative that the Halo show disregarded the established story/lore. The TV series provided backstory, introduced us to Spartans, and led us to the events of Reach, all while offering something new. Although the first season had a slow start similar to the Fallout show, it concluded with a strong finish, and the second season was excellent, effectively utilizing the source material." To that, sir, I will just say to each their own, because I don't agree with that at all about how the first season ended, and I didn't watch the second story, so I can't speak to that. But just because it has story doesn't mean it's a good story. Remember that. The most amusing news of the week, Bethesda plans to release a 60 FPS patch for Xbox on Series X, and yet some people are complaining about it. Seriously, though, does anyone believe it will work as intended? That is another good point. I didn't consider that, but that's highly possible. The what the fuck moment of the week goes to Ninja Theory for Hellblade 2. I enjoyed every Ninja Theory game so far, and I'm excited to put some headphones on for Senua's next journey. I'm definitely a fan. Moving on, Ninja Theory tweeted, quote, "Our game camera is anamorphic with the 2.391 aspect ratio, which means there will be letterboxing on the average display. This can be seen as further evidence of Xbox's management overly artistic direction. While it's important for developers to have creative freedom, effective management and leadership is also crucial in the business, and it seems Xbox is lacking this area. So it appears I need to buy the game, supply the internet connection, wait for patches and fixes, and even get a new monitor for the proper display experience." I don't know what any of that means. Does that mean they're not going to... their aspect ratio is fucked and you can't... Yeah, letterboxing on the average display. Oh, okay, I see. So there'll be like black bars on your regular screen. Oh, they're probably doing that on purpose to make it more, to make it more cinematic. That's exactly what you're talking about. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I don't know. I like Ninja Theory a lot, and I liked the first Hellblade, but there's a part of me that just, I can't get over. I feel like they're sniffing their own farts with this IP a little bit, to be honest with you, man. Here's to hoping they come up with something like dumb, action, gory, fun thing as their next game, because I'd really love to play not a movie next time. But I am still looking forward to this game. And then you round out with this little paragraph. Many developers, aside from Nintendo, Namco, and Sega, appear to be focused on the advanced latest technology, despite knowing that less than 10% of the market can afford it. This approach often caters to only the most hardcore PC enthusiasts who are indifferent to steep prices, resulting in subpar experiences for the majority. Consequently, they are perplexed with their games when they do not sell 20 million copies on launch weekend. They are so engrossed with the art studios playing with the cutting-edge technology just because it exists, they fail to recognize the actual market. Consequently, I am decidedly against purchasing an Xbox or PlayStation hardware in the future, with the possible exception of a controller. Apologies for the rant and short story. Please don't feel obligated to read it all. Oh, I read it all. Fantastic show, Jesse. Thank you for providing a balding, bearded old man with a gaming podcast he can genuinely enjoy. Well, I don't know why you enjoy it, but I do appreciate that you're here, that you comment, you participate, and you listen. It means a great deal, and you're the best. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, I think Nintendo proved this point. I think Nintendo's been proving this point since the Wii, right? With power doesn't fucking matter. And my middle school, high school brain couldn't understand this. What do you mean? Oh, PS3 and Xbox 360 are so powerful compared to Wii. Wii sucks. And then what they proved with Wii, with Switch, doesn't fucking matter. As long as the games are good, as long as you have good games, it's all anyone cares about. You know what game probably doesn't have a nearly ridiculous list of developers and budget and timeline of development, despite being a big and kind of groundbreaking style game? Zelda Breath of the Wild. Huh. They made a sequel to that game in what? Actually, it kind of took a while. Actually, that game kind of took, 6 years. It's kind of standard for these days. But, I mean, man, they weren't... never mind. Maybe I have to walk that back. 6 years is... But that's kind of typical for a Zelda game, actually. Zelda games usually don't come out that fast. I don't know. I'm just going to take that whole thing back, actually. Bad example, bad point. I'm exhausted as shit. I'm losing my voice. I'm just trying to keep going. But let's wrap it up there. You guys, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Xbox On. I am tired of talking. Yeah, I mean, I wish we were here under better circumstances. I wish the news was more positive. I wish this week could have been about like, oh, there's a rumor that suggests the new Gears of War game could be as little as 2 years away and that we'll see great gameplay of Perfect Dark and Contraband's coming back. I wish all these things, but unfortunately, Matt Booty sucks at running these studios. Phil Spencer got Xbox into serious trouble by buying Activision, and now everyone's paying the price. And I just want to say, yes, it sucks for us as gamers. Yes, it sucks for Xbox as a brand in the uncertainty with this brand. Right now, it's really about the developers who lost their jobs this week and who lost their studios they worked so hard for. And I feel so deeply for those guys because it's such dog shit that you could create a game as good as Hi-Fi Rush and still pay the ultimate consequence for that. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. It's so fucking wrong. And the problem is when the big businesses own everything and control everything, it doesn't matter what's right. It doesn't matter what makes sense. It just matters what makes money. So I don't know what to say to that. But I hope next week's better news, man. I really fucking do. I hope there's a huge turnaround and there's something that happens. I know it won't take back the fact that these jobs are lost and that these studios have closed, but hopefully next week is positive and exciting enough that we can find ourselves, getting excited about something with Xbox rather than having to just be grumpy and critical. I don't love being negative, but I just don't understand how we could, where there's a silver lining to be found here and how we can be optimistic about this. It seems like Xbox is headed in just a really bad direction. Game Pass is failing catastrophically. Their studios are being so poorly managed. They're abandoning their core consumers by throwing everything on PlayStation. There's just so little to be optimistic about. And, there's that summer showcase next month, and I am really looking forward to seeing what we get out of that. But, man, it's just... God, it's so rough out there right now. Even with all these great games on the horizon. I wish we could just be focused on Fable and Avowed, but instead it's this. So, hope you guys have a great week. Hope you guys have a better week than everyone at Xbox is having. And be good, be kind, eat some good food, and spend time with those you love. Until next week, power your dreams.